Welcome everyone to Fellowship Chat, the show where we talk about Lord of the Rings online. And I realize I have the game up, but this is more of a discussion-based show. So today we do have Brightlife, who has been here before. There he is, but we also have a third guest this time, Rescue Fat. I also have my producer, the cat, in the bottom right there. But thank you everybody for joining the show, and yeah, we will do some introductions, then talk about this show's all about Before the Shadow, the mini expansion that's coming in just 1 week from today. All right, so Bright Life, you have been here before, but perhaps
Hi.
a quick reminder of just like how much you've played LOTRO, general experience in the game.
Love it, dude. Hey, Louis chat. How you guys doing today? Always great to be here and see you guys. I'm often in that chat, so I love getting to hang out with you guys. So I have been playing this game for. Hang on, let me slash played real quick. It says that you've been playing way too long to only be level 70. I level like a snail, but I've been playing for 1 week, 4 hours, and 57 minutes on this character, and I'm only level 70. But I have really enjoyed the game. It's a game that I initially started to kind of practice content creation before I thought I would move on to another game, but I've found myself just genuinely loving this game so much that I just want to keep on playing it. So that's been me, man. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, and that reminds me, I did put a link to everybody else's channel in the description, so please do check them out. I really appreciate them being here and helping with the show, because without them, we would not have a fellowship, and this would be impossible. So on that note, Rescue Fat, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name's Rescue Fat. I usually just use my name Tristan.
Okay.
I've been playing Lord of the Rings online for about... I got back into it probably maybe 6 weeks ago. I used to play when I was a kid. I played when I was probably like 11 or 12. I took like a really long break because of some issues with Turbine that I had with my account. And I just recently got back into it, and I'm trying to make Lord of the Rings Online content on YouTube. That I have the same channel name as what's listed below. I've made 2 videos, but I actually started doing YouTube a year ago, and I was originally doing it for Yu-Gi-Oh! But I'm kind of burning out of Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment, so I chose that I wanted to start doing Lord of the Rings Online content, and I really do enjoy it.
And not only that, you've been crushing it, dude. Your videos are phenomenal.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I don't have a degree in video editing. It's just a hobby.
I love it, man.
Yeah, I forget the exact video, but you had one that I really don't know what you could count as blown up, especially for Lotro, but one pretty big video, right?
Yeah, let me look it up. I have my YouTube channel open with the studio. It was I called it The True King of MMOs, Lord of the Rings Online in 2022. I made a part 1, and that got 14K views within like 2 weeks. And then I made a part 2, but not a lot of people have watched the part 2 yet.
Go watch the part 2, people. Come on.
So if y'all have not seen it, here's the first one, and as you mentioned, 14,000 views in 1 month is quite a lot, at least in my experience, for a Lotro video. Yeah. So congrats on that, and hopefully you can keep going with part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see, here's part 2.
It takes a lot of effort, just to be honest, with regards to all the editing, because I capture all my own B-roll. I like putting a lot of jokes inside my content and all that sort of stuff, and just trying to get it all working on Premiere and making it look good, along with the sound not being crackly, because I have this like $30 mic, so I'm trying to do my best with the audio. It takes a lot of effort, let's put it that way.
And you use Premiere. Yeah. That's a real man's editing machine, I tell you that.
Yeah, I tried DaVinci Resolve. I just can't get into it.
I actually went the other way around, from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve.
I was gonna say,
what do you like about DaVinci?
For me, not having to pay a subscription, really.
That is true. I had it through my college. That's why.
That's what I used to have, and then they finally learned I wasn't there anymore. So yeah.
That's like getting your college fee canceled for Spotify.
All right, so man, I really should have done a better job with planning this, but I guess to jump in with Before the Shadow, that is releasing a week from now. There are a whole bunch of major selling points for the mini expansion. One of them is the new low-level experience, levels 1 to 32. So if I actually bring up the LOTRO site, we can look a little bit more into that and what they have. So if you have not seen it, I'm sure a lot of people watching this are probably already familiar with it. So just to briefly go through it, it's a mini expansion with level 1 to 32 content for leveling characters, but also a new skirmish and new missions, 40 new missions, in fact, and the new delving system, which will be impactful for level cap characters that run through that and decide to go up in tiers with the delving and try to tackle more difficult missions and get better rewards. On top of that, there is going to be a 6-man dungeon, but that will be at a later date. We don't have much other information on the 6-man instance yet. I think those are all the major features. If you're interested in more minor details, the beta has been ongoing. We'll discuss the beta. And I believe Brightlife, I saw earlier today, you might have made a video on some of the more hidden details that they had in the very tough to read patch notes.
Yeah, we found some hidden features. We also found a jumping puzzle. I want it to be known here in front of all of these people watching that Brightlife community has the world first for the jumping puzzle in Swanfleet. I didn't see anybody else. in it. So I'm just gonna claim it. I'm gonna put my flag in the jumping puzzle in Swanfleet. That's my one accomplishment.
As far as I know, that is completely true. I did not even know about that.
And so who's the real LOTRO expert, Louis? I'm just asking, man. I'm just kidding.
Swanfleet, yes, that zone. I remember riding through that. I'm like, there should be a jumping puzzle there. So it's kind of funny that I never even saw one, but you found one. That's pretty great.
Yeah, baby. It's cool. It's cool to see. To me, it's cool to see that because I always, when a dev goes above and beyond to create something that they don't necessarily have to create, right? Like really what you just need is you need a zone with quests through it that gets you through the zone. But to see them do something like that that's really fun makes me really excited.
I actually haven't done much of the beta. Like I've watched a bit of like Louis doing stuff with regards to it. I've been kind of busy and I didn't know how to actually get into the beta by using Bull Roar. Is there is jumping puzzles an important thing even later on?
I remember one quest for Heightbold, which is an old endgame system mechanic thing. You can still go through it. It's a little bit different, way less grindy than it used to be. But during that, one of the optional dailies that you have does involve a jumping puzzle. Otherwise, cool. I'm not sure. That's like the one that I remember. I don't know if any are like important later on.
You just triggered my chat. They were just like Aldberg.
Oh, Heightbold.
What about I saw something when I was watching Bright stream. Somebody mentioned flower picking as endgame content.
Oh,
in Gondor.
Yeah.
What's up with that? What's up with that? I have no idea.
Pavilion. That was one of the periods. Actually, I was playing a little bit more frequently at that point in Gondor, but yeah, you used to pick flowers and get your end game gear. Like you just go around the landscape picking these flowers and you'd get currency to barter for pretty great gear as far as I remember.
Let's just say I'm thankful that's not in the game anymore. Maybe,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's really interesting, the geode system in Gundabad, which I guess neither of you have gotten to yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
I won't for another year, by the way. It'll be a long time.
It's kind of like the flower picking. So it brought a lot of flashbacks when people did that. It's instead of flower picking, you're picking rocks essentially from the ground and getting the geodes out of them.
It makes sense with the dwarves.
But importantly, they did not make it very important for gear. Like you didn't get full teal sets of gear for rock hunting.
So I'm trying to figure out with this. Like so far in the game, I have gotten. So I'm in Isengard at the moment, similar to Bright. I know that like very beginning of the game you have gray gear, then there's green gear, then there's blue gear, And I got like one piece of yellow by doing the epic quest. What's the actual max? Because I don't know what that is.
Yes.
Gold.
So it goes yellow, purple. Let's see, I should do this down to up. Yellow, purple, teal, and then gold would be the best.
So
Yeah.
purple is above gold.
Purple is above yellow.
Above
Yellow is a
yellow.
little bit different than gold.
Do they have a lot of like essence slots? Because I keep getting essence drops and I can't use them at all.
Higher levels, typically.
Yeah.
So, oh, I don't know if people can see the game. It's really tiny. But I have, on screen for anybody curious, I have a purple piece of gear. These are really bad examples. Let me do this.
Let me
Purple
pull
piece
up
of
your stream
gear,
share.
yellow piece of gear, and a teal piece of gear. I don't think this character actually, he does have gold quality gear. But yeah,
So
if
the new-
anybody
so-
can let me
Go ahead.
know, sorry, if anybody
No,
can
yeah, so
let me
the-
know, oops. Okay. If anybody can let me know, if you can actually see the game, because this is obviously a little bit of a new setup here with the way the cameras work. And also at this point, if anybody in chat has any thoughts, feel free to share, and any questions, especially ones relevant to what we're talking about. Unrelevant questions are okay, but they might be a little bit harder to just answer all those as I and we might usually during streams. Okay.
Right. Well, when you talk about gold cloaks, it makes me think about so in the new Return to Before the Shadow, sorry, the delving system. We tested that out this last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about delvings at some point. But it is fascinating that you get a essentially best in slot cloak for running these delving systems. You know, so like that's the first gold that I have personally seen in the game, outside of maybe some. Yeah, I think that's it. And so that is a fascinating thing to say that, you know, that you can get a gold cloak through that as well. So they're definitely still playing with that best in slot gear, but now they're expanding it out to more than just like raid tier gear, right?
Yeah, it seems like it.
I mean,
'Cause
WoW. Sorry, keep going.
You can go. No, you can go.
So for example, like I know with regards, so I played a lot, and when I mean a lot, I mean I probably put like 400 hours into Guild Wars 2. And I know that Guild Wars 2, like that grind in that game is insane. You had to do your dailies to be able to get any of your ascended pieces and stuff like that. So I can see why they would add in like a daily system for actually like better gear. The question I have overall is just like with regards to the way that Lotro's actually played, I mean, it's more of a story-based game if you think about it. So is the impact of having like the best in slot gear really that important in like maximizing raids?
That is a great question. I used to be somebody who played kind of that way in Lotro. It's been a little bit mixed the past few years. Like with Gunabat, I just quickly got burnt out. But then it's always complicated because I played on an ore, which was the legendary server. So while I did often some of the most difficult content for the level cap, it was a different level cap, and the whole gearing, stats, all that stuff was kind of out of whack. Basically, our characters were really overpowered, so me doing the toughest level 100 content or whatever still wasn't like as difficult as it was back in the day. I forgot the question at this point. Sorry, long ramble.
No, the question is maximizing your gear via delving
Oh yeah.
necessary in due to the fact that raiding, I wouldn't say, is really important in Lord of the Rings Online compared to like WoW. In WoW, the thing is like if you look at, okay, so I'm gonna compare two MMOs. If we compare Guild Wars 2, there's like no raiding scene. You had like base game raids, you had Heart of Thorns, then you had Path of Fire, and I think the Descent of the Dragons was the recent one. And the raids didn't really weren't a thing in like Guild Wars 2, I'd say. It was more of like doing like your rifts and stuff like that. But then you have like WoW, for example, where every expansion there may be like 2 to 3 raids that you can do, and you have to do the raids to get into the next raids to have better gear. Now the question really is it super necessary to max out your gear via delvings for the fact that, I mean, raids aren't super important in Lord of the Rings Online? you're not trying to do raid tiers and you're trying to max raids.
I think
It's
that's
an interesting thing. So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I
mean,
think that's
so-
true for most
You can use
people,
group, yeah.
but there is a community that like pushes raid content trying to do the highest tiers.
Yeah, I was gonna say like over here on like one of my friends over here on Twitch, Sosky, his crew is like a high tier pushing. They're really high tier pushing at this point. So I think it's probably up to your goal, right? Like I think for a lot of people, their goal would be to. Well, I can't say this, but for me, as a dad of 3, just to kind of say where delvings fall in to bring it back to Before the Shadow, I think as a dad of 3, it can be hard to always link up with a crew that some people are in Europe, some people are
Yeah,
Australia, Asia, whatever. And for me, I still love pushing into your in-game content, right? Like actually getting to do end-game raiding is really fun. I think, and I don't know I know a couple of people in my community personally that are like heavily against raiding, but most people are pretty open to it. Like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And I knew we do have some people that like to push, but I think what delvings do is they take the busy, dad, which I think the dad gamers probably makes up a decent chunk of people in the Lord of the Rings Online kind of a vibe, where it gives them the chance to get good enough gear to at least try. I think that's probably what I would say. And so like where a Sosky and some other people that are really into the raid scene, they every single Friday they're pushing. They're pushing Hidden Horde. I could see how the delving system allows you to go, I don't have all the time in the world to gear for like my T4, T5, but if I just do my delvings when I can, when my kids go to sleep and all that stuff, that may be where the kind of the niche is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I'd say one important thing that I think that like Standing Stone could probably do with regards to if they wanted to like reach out maybe to like the World of Warcraft community, because I played WoW during what was it? It was Draenor, and I played during Legion. And I was doing like high tier raids in Legion and all that sort of stuff. And I know that there's like a really big raid community in WoW, because that is your end game. That's the goal. I feel like if like Standing Stone, if they really pushed like raiding, it could bring in more people maybe from like the WoW scene. But I also think another interesting thing is the fact that like you might have like, I think, what is it? Os Dunhoth is the one in Enedwaith, that raid and stuff like that.
Yep.
I know you can scale raids. I know that much. But I feel like what they should probably do is the fact that like they should give an incentive to do old raids at max tier and max level and give you the ability to maybe get scaling gear.
Yeah, I think
Because I think that would push people to do it a lot more. It would be really fun to do old raids.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing.
Agree. I said that it would be a really cool thing, and Louis, I don't know if you, again, we'll get back. I want to definitely honor your questions, man, because I know that this is your show, man. But I've thought about doing some sort of like, it would be a cool thing like on an anniversary of the game to make the Rift raid a scalable raid. You know what I mean? Not just one boss, but I think the Rift raid brought me my passion for raiding and in game content. I remember back in the day doing the whole like Ventrilo. I was this like punk 15-year-old kid with a really squeaky voice, like trying to lead these 30-year-olds in the Rift raid, and it was a really cool experience. It gave me a lot of confidence. And so I think it would be really cool. And a lot of my chat has said like, man, like the Rift raid is just good. Bloodborne, who makes a lot of great content, he says the Rift raid is the best raid in the game in one of his videos. So I think it'd be cool if they would go like, just like you can do OD, 65 plus. It'd be really cool if you could do a capped and even like a scaling Rift raid, like a T5 Balrog. Can you imagine? I mean, that would be insane. Yeah. I think that would be really cool. But anyway, those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think there's honestly a lot of opportunities for them to do that type of stuff, but I always have to think from their perspective. Like they have to decide what takes priority and how difficult that would be. But I honestly imagine that would be easier than designing a whole new raid. So that's when I start to question, like, it seems like it'd be easier to make even a particular fight from old raids. Maybe they don't have to do the whole raid, but do a few fights or a couple boss fights, from the raid, add it in an update, and then that's just another option you have for raiding. Because there's really, at like level 140 right now, there's one raid There's been one raid for quite a few months. There's one 6-man instance and two 3-man instances. So there's not a lot of variety for group content that is relevant for 140. Now there are the festival instances, the boss from the vaults. I honestly forget if there's one with harvest math, but that might be done anyway. I haven't kept up with that, clearly. I think Storvegan, that would be the next one in the winter festival.
That would be
I
cool.
haven't done them. I didn't do the harvest one.
But yeah, anyway, and sure, I do think that would be great to just have more options, because that's been, to me, one of the things that keeps me from going back to that style of like actually going through the end game content and pushing more difficulty and that type of stuff.
Right.
Do you
right.
think they could take the like non-scaling instances, like the gap, like for example, if I remember correctly, back in the day, like wasn't Garth Agerwin not 3 instances and it was 1 originally? I may be wrong on that. Like I feel like they could take those non-scaling instances, like for example, like Fornost, and they could probably like put them all back together into raids and make them scaling raids.
The Fornost is actually a scaling one right now, but yeah, for the ones that aren't, I think it's interesting because the scaling like 6-man instances and the scaling raids don't really scale that well overall. So if you like put, for example, Ostunhoth at level 140, it's significantly easier than it used to be at level 65 cap, and the reward structure is like, it's not completely pointless to run it, but you don't really get raid gear. Basically, you don't get good gear.
Right.
Didn't you also, with regards to like the rift and stuff, you had to have like specific resistances like frost and stuff like that and shadow? Because I know like some gear in, like, for example, 4HL had like frost resistance, and I heard that was you need to have your actual different sets when the game originally released.
I have no idea. I didn't really play back then. I've heard that. Oh, the first thing I think is Radiance with Mirkwood, but that's a totally different thing.
What was that? Because I've heard of that. I have no idea what it is.
Basically, I think it was a stat you needed for. It was like a stat on gear, and you needed it for more difficult group content, like a certain amount of it, something like that. Okay,
Is that like the
Ostunhoth.
Oh.
That was True North Scale Motorsports. Very long name, but we'll go with it. You said Ostunhoth that's the one when you needed the different resists for each wing, which makes sense because it's like poison, wound wing, stuff like that.
Yeah, one's bleed, I think, like blood or something.
Yep.
It'd be cool if they could at least like bring that. Like the thing is, they don't really have resistances like that now. It's just like general, you know.
They still do, but yeah, they're not as important as they used to be. I think in general, at least.
It went the way of the dodo, kind of like classic WoW did with their resistances.
Yeah,
That is very true. That's
makes
very
things
true.
simpler, which can be good and bad.
Yeah, simple is good, but it can also be like, okay, I'm gonna be doing what was that sand raid in WoW? I forget its name. It's in like
Encourage, something like that.
yeah, Encourage. It's like you're doing Encourage, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna have specific sets for this. I'm gonna have specific sets for that. I mean, it would make for more interesting endgame content in the sense that you need to get specific gear to do specific raids.
Mm-hmm.
And like if they had that locked behind maybe like a certain like quest instances and stuff like that, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. I think it could be cool.
Yep.
I mean, I think that, like Louis said, I think one of the things that is got to be difficult, right, is like, what do they prioritize? Like, if they were going to prioritize new content for me, I would want them to do a raid that was Rift level. You know, spend a lot of time creating a raid that was, 6 to 8 bosses deep. I just really like that size of a raid, to be honest. And I think making the last couple bosses of that raid incredibly difficult. I think that's actually what made the Rift really fun, because your first 4 bosses were decent. There were some good mechanics, but they were a little bit tank and spank. You know what I mean? Like a little bit more in that way. You just had to be careful of some voice lines. But by the time I mean, by the time you got to the Dark One, by the time you got to Thrang, and then especially Tharlock, I mean, I played for, I raid led the Rift for, 4 to 6 months, and I never killed Tharlock back in the day. Whenever it was max, I mean, it was that hard. And I think that being able to create like, I just think it'd be really cool to create something where you could actually, like, if there was some real challenge, because I played H8 recently. I played T1, T2 with some friends, with Sosky and Green Eyed Gamer, all those, and I found myself kind of going, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like the first 3 bosses of the Rift, which are decent bosses, but they're not really meant to be penultimate bosses. But that's like the whole raid. I would really like to see a raid with a lot more of an expansive thing. I know that comes out from after Before the Shadow, and I want to talk about Before the Shadow because that's 7 days, man. That's crazy. But it is a cool thing to think about.
Yeah, I think you had an interesting point with the Rift, though, just the way the raid progressed from relatively simpler fights to then it gets more complicated. That was actually a detail I picked up on a little bit running through it on an Aura is kind of interesting. But to start to get back to Before the Shadow, it sounds like raids are generally important when it comes to new like content releases or major update in an MMO, yet Before the Shadow does not have a raid. What it has is lower level questing zones and things like that. So in the beta, I know Rescue Fat, you said you didn't play the beta, but maybe from anything you saw from it, and Brightlife as well, and I'll talk about this, but what have been like the, I guess, biggest positive parts of the beta experience and biggest negatives or things you didn't really like as much?
Well, I have mine, and that is the fact that they're removing the fact that you have to do epic quests and class deeds to be able to get your class points. Because it's funny, because I'm playing Runekeeper, and that's my main, and there's one skill that the Runekeeper has, and it's Shocking Touch. And it's the most useless skill in the game, because it's a 4-second daze. But it's a 4-second daze. Okay, don't get me wrong. You're facing 2 bosses, okay? And let's say that one of them can be stunned. A 4-second daze is good. But the fact is, if you're running like normal content, because of the way that LIs scale right now, like, I'm never going to use that skill. And that basically locks me behind 3 class points, because I'm never using that skill to get my class point to finish like my deed that has it in it. So I'm really happy the fact that they're getting rid of that.
I would agree.
Touch, it has its uses, but yeah, when you got to the general gameplay, I don't really use it that much. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. That was actually also my favorite change. I think not only, sorry, there are lawnmowers apparently out my apartment. They're really loud to me, so hopefully not for you all. But
not at all, but I do love the cat, so.
Yeah, she's helping. She's our producer today.
She's doing a great job.
Hey, cats are the best. I always say that.
Anyway.
So yeah, that was actually my favorite change. I think in the entire, like maybe even favorite thing in the entire mini expansion. And one of my favorite changes that I have seen in the game in a very long time. Perhaps even ever.
Yeah. I think another huge one that is hard to remember in my chat, shout out to Tulays who reminded me of this one, was the riding skill at level 1. I think that's a big one. I think that was it was a big hurdle in the mind to go and buy the riding skill in the store, even though it actually wasn't that difficult. Like, once you learned about it, buying the riding skill in the current iteration of the game was basically 90 LOTRO points, which I think amounts to not a lot of deeds. I mean, yeah, it's like one zone of deeds. However, I will just say, like, it doesn't matter how easy it was. The fact that it was locked behind a store was an automatic turnoff for a lot of people. I mean, even if you go back to like Josh Strive Hayes played the game for worst MMO ever, which is where he goes through all the MMOs and looks. Yeah. But that was one of his big negatives. He's like, hey, the writing skill is locked behind the store, and the writing skill is a very essential part of most MMOs, And I think that even though you could probably argue with him and go, hey man, like, it's really actually easy to get this, the fact that they're removing that barrier is massive. Like, I mean, it's huge, because I think that and now for those that don't know, since we played the beta, now essentially what happens is if you have your first time character, your first time playthrough of the game, you get a part 1 of a 2-part quest. That part 1 gives you LOTRO points that then shows you where to go to get the riding skill for your account. Basically, so it shows you how to go to the LOTRO store to get to the riding skill. You buy it, it introduces you to the store, which is necessary in a game like this, and then you have the riding skill like at level 1, and then the part 2 of the quest, which then every alt gets. You actually get your steed as well. So you already have the riding skill, you get the steed as well, which is brilliant. I mean, I think that to me, as I think about what I think is going to lead to the long-term health of the game, I think I would put that above Delving's. I would put that right up there with the class trait point change, not being behind quests, and now every level you just get a class trait point. Once you hit max level, you have all of them. You don't have to do these quests and grind. I think that those, like riding and the class traits difference, I think is probably going to be the best for the long-term health of the game, in my opinion.
I could agree with the fact of that being very healthy for the long-term game. I feel like, so if we're talking about like Josh Strife Hayes' worst MMO video, I saw that. I think one of the things also is the fact that he just kept on saying, okay, let's see how many minutes it takes until they advertise the store.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, like, it tells you that you can get the riding trait, but it doesn't tell you how to actually get the riding trait when you actually play the game. Because, like, when I start playing this again, it's like, you can get the riding trait. And I would have been like, oh, cool, where do I get it? But the thing was, like, if I was a new player, I'd have no idea where to find it. But because I knew it, I'm like, oh, I have to get the LP for it. And the thing is, like, 95 LP, as you said, is not hard. If you're playing the game, and the thing is, by the time you're level 15, it's not really going to matter because usually you'll have, like, 120 by doing your deeds. There's some, like, ones that give, like, really big amounts of, like, LOTRO points, like 20, and it's not hard to do. I feel like the biggest fact is the fact, like, when people look at LOTRO, I think one of the things is that Standing Stone Games kind of makes the store look if I would say it kind of looks intimidating for new players. Because they're like, oh, what do I actually have to buy in this? What do I need to play this game? And to some people, it may look like it's pay to win. I mean, there are certain aspects like tomes, like you can get like tomes of agility, you can get tomes of fate, and yeah, those give you permanent boosts, but they're not so much that it's pay to win, you know? Maybe at like low levels you're gonna level a bit faster because of your tomes, but I don't think that like I feel like if they fix the presentation of how the store is actually functioning and say, hey, this is more cosmetic, or hey, like if they got rid of the fact that you have to buy quest packs entirely. I mean, they were doing that free quest thing like literally up till yesterday. But if they got rid of like quest packs entirely and only had the expansions and then maybe only had cosmetics and like housing stuff, I think that the store would probably be like less intimidating to new players.
Yeah, it's really even going back to the riding trait, it's something that I never really thought was that much of an issue because it really does not take much time or much play time to get the 95 LOTRO points.
Right.
But the problem is, I think it's something when people see, you all have mentioned this, when you just see the cash shop and the game's like advertising that heavily, I don't think it's something people really knew just how easy and how quickly you could get those LOTRO points. So it's almost like an alternative form of in-game currency where you could get to like level 20 or whatever and actually get a mount almost the same as if you had a quest at level 20. But
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, it's
I think another good positive for me as I played through, the zones are really nice. I mean, they're really, really good. I think I'm very opinionated about zones, if you guys don't know this. But I do love forming great opinions about zones. And I think that I don't quite necessarily know the story of these zones yet. That's one way that I really judge a zone, is how well does it tell its story. But I will just say from the visuals, from the draw distances, the places that you can go, I think I found myself in these zones more than any other zone wanting to explore the areas. Like they've really strategically put things up on hills like castles, or had something in the distance burning with smoke coming up. They don't necessarily do that in other zones very much, where I think the way I would I'd tie it into like a game like Elder Scrolls Online, where they do a great job of like you seeing something in a distance and going, I need to go explore that. And so I think that LOTRO is getting there, which makes me really happy. I really, really like that as well.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yep.
What do you guys think is like so we were talking about like the long-term longevity of the game with regards to like these introductions of like the class deeds and epic quest class points being removed. What do you think would be the biggest thing that would be able to make people like come into this game?
That's a good question. I see, like, I could even pull from chat here since we haven't talked about them too much. I've always found it interesting. I describe chat as like a single entity, but it's really a whole bunch of like more individual people.
Yeah.
They're one person. They're a hive mind.
Yeah.
They're a hive mind, and they for some reason really like Arid Lewin. I don't know why.
Aaron Lewin is
it's
the
a
best
great
zone. What are you
zone.
talking about?
That's why.
Right?
No, it's terrible zone, but it's okay. I don't want to fight here. I don't want to fight here. But you guys are wrong. It's okay.
You call it
yeah,
C tier, and you say Evan Dim is A tier. Evan Swim is not A tier.
Everswim is S tier, by the way, and no F tier for sure. No, Lou, what were you saying about your chat? The hive mind.
Yeah, they've just been talking about a few different things, like having things like the clash trait points, the mount. Let's see, some about gearing, and then as far as like to get players into the game, I've seen two big ones, which is graphic updates and level squish, which I know we've talked about before, Brightlife, but that is one that comes up a
Making it
lot
happen.
to me,
We're
level
doing it.
squish. Because 140 levels, like, even if you could get there in a couple weeks, if you don't know that, it's a ton of levels, and I know LOTRO has like a ton of content. So yeah, level squish would probably be a big one.
I don't think it's a level squish though. I think instead a stat squish. Because the thing is, I don't think the levels are an issue. Because I could like I'm going through an Isengard and I'm trying to do like all the quests. There's some people who have the same issue where it's like I level too fast and they buy the Stone of the Tortoise so they can disable their leveling. I don't think the leveling is the issue in the amount of levels. I think it's the scaling on the levels is the big issue because like when you're like level 1, you have like 100 HP. When you're level 140, you got like 1.4 million. Like it.
Yeah, I think for me, the reason I would agree with you on stat squish, it's very important that we, like at some point, it's the inflation thing, right? Which I didn't realize until WoW did their level squish. How much? I don't know why 1,000 damage feels better than 100,000, but it just does. It just feels like you're doing more. But I think that the reason I would say level squish, even if you just chopped it in half, even if you kept the distance of the leveling experience longer, I think a new player hears 140 levels and goes, not for me. I don't know. That's at least in my experience. Like when I'm like, if you tell me that there's 70 levels in this game to get to max, I'm like, oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. But if you tell me that there's 140 levels, that's just, to me, I feel like that's a turnoff. But maybe it's not for some people. But that's what I feel like.
What did I forget? WoW, they didn't squish their levels though, didn't they? They squished
They
their
did.
stats.
Yeah,
No, they did both. Yeah, so it was 120 down to 60. So you started
wow.
50 in Shadowlands and went up to 60, and I felt like that was a very, I feel like that was like a universally loved thing.
Yeah, I definitely love that.
I loved it.
I also really liked how they did it. Now the question is, if the way that Blizzard did the level squish for WoW, could that work with LOTRO? Because LOTRO is a very story-oriented game, so like splitting up, say, volume 1, 2, 3, 5, like having each of those be able to get you to the level cap individually might not work out that well. So
I think it could work.
I think that's why I would just say if it's a stat squish and a level squish, it's literally just taking the same journey. It's taking the same amount of damage you can do, the same journey. It's just squishing it down to half. You know what I mean? Like it's literally, let's say you get to Isengard at level 35. You know what I mean? Like there you go. It's a slower leveling experience, but it just squishes down. That's what I think would work.
Yeah.
It would be hard to do though, I'm sure.
It would, because the fact is then you'd basically have to have all XP that you can never gain. Because like you can go through like a zone, and the zone, like for me, I'll do troll if I do troll shots from like level 30 to like 40. You can just stay in troll shots for that long. You're gonna miss a lot of the content if you do like a full squish, because that means like you can't hop from zone to zone, because it's like, okay, what am I gonna miss on my XP and stuff like that? Am I gonna be out leveled for it?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a fascinating topic. So Louis, your chat is saying level squish, and then they're saying graphics update. I think the other thing that I hear a lot of people say is lag fixes, which I think is, of course, we kind of always talk about it, but I think it's probably the biggest reason that people don't play. You know, every time I post a video on YouTube, literally every time, I always get someone saying, you know, hey, like I just can't play it because I can't, you know, lag for them is debilitating, you know, and I think that the game has gotten a lot better. Of course, they've been introducing a lot of stuff, but I think that is one thing that's very, very difficult, in my opinion, right? Like it's hard for people to really jump into the game because of that sometimes.
Yeah, it's never fun.
The rubber banding is the worst part.
Yeah.
And also not being able to use your skills. That's annoying. Because the weird thing is, like, with the lag, it's like, sometimes you can walk around and you're fighting somebody, but you're just trying to spam your skill and it's not working. It's like when you're playing Warden, it's like your gambits just start getting, like, piled up because it's like the lag's not... It's like there's a disconnect in the server, almost.
Yeah. Totally.
Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted right now. I am trying to put the chat up on the stream. I don't know why. This is something I knew to do last time, but I just totally forgot to do that. So I'm going to try to improve this in the future, but y'all have finally made it into the stream.
I need to improve mine as well, but I'm going to be right back after I run to the bathroom.
Great, no problem.
Do your thing, man. No, but so Louis, I don't know if you told me, what are you most excited about for Before the Shadow? Like, do you have a single thing that, and I would say even maybe a fun question would be outside of like from a game perspective, like for a new player, it's super exciting. Like, what about like you personally? Like, is there anything that you personally are excited about? Like, this just makes me as Louis excited.
I already mentioned the class trait points. I feel like if I keep repeating that, it's basically going to be cheating. But I'll briefly say why with that one, then get to something else. So basically, I would have all these kind of mid to even high level characters that I would just abandon because I did not want to get their trait points. Like, I'd level them, and some of them I would level through like the means that you would get the trait points, but then maybe I'd miss epic battle ones or just not get their class deeds done. And a lot of them I did not want to go through Rohan and Gondor quests and necessarily all the book quests when I could run missions or something instead. So for me, it's basically, I'm trying to think of a concept for a video about this. I just don't know quite how to do it yet. It still might come, but it's basically the idea is that like I'm going to unabandon a whole bunch of characters just because of this change. Like, I feel like I can actually play and progress on my Guardian, my Beorning. I have a mid-level Runekeeper, but I'll probably stick to my high-level one. And I'm going to make a new Runekeeper. Similar, just basically all those characters. My Minstrel, who I've been playing, the reality with him, I talked about this through the playtime with him, is that once he got to Rohan, I just abandoned him. But I no longer have to, so it's really exciting.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I really like that idea. Now, I've never experienced that before, like the having to abandon a character because you just don't want to do the same things over and over again. So I wonder if that will lead to a lot more maybe class diversity in the end game with Before the Shadow. Maybe that would be an unintended effect because, you know, probably now you level your characters, but especially if you want to do end game group content, you probably know that, right? Like the Beorning is like one of the better healers, and you know the Hunter is the best DPS. So you probably spend your time. You spend your time on what gives you the best return, right? And so I wonder if now will that maybe shift. I think that could be really cool.
For me, it will. Like, I'll still have my Warden and Runekeeper. They're my 2 at level 140 right now that I've gone through the end game, but now I might also have a Guardian, Beorning. That's another one. He's probably 3rd on the list, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's super exciting to me.
That makes me pumped.
But yeah, if I
love that.
can get to something else, I have to remember all the different things. I am really excited for the delvings. Honestly, with every update, I just like want to quest in the new area because that's what I think. That's what I think they always do well. It's just like the plain
agree.
old questing, leveling content,
Totally agree.
and yeah, usually doing the dungeons. Well, sometimes they aren't particularly special, or even the skirmish coming here. All the missions. It's always fun for me to do those at least once. Some of them aren't as fun to replay, but some of them are. So yeah, looking forward to the content.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things really. Delving wise, I am really excited for that because there are times when there'll be like in my kinship, sometimes just one other person on, or if I'm just like nobody else happens to be on, I can do something to get me some end game gear, and it's I think can be interesting content based on my beta experience at least.
What's your have you tried the delvings yet?
I have. I've only run tier 10.
Okay.
I see the problem is for me, the fact that I could run tier 10, I'm never going to do a tier below tier 10.
Right,
So,
completely.
I don't know that I'll ever do that, but yeah, it was really interesting.
It was interesting. We actually did it on stream the other day, and I'd be interested in what you guys think about this. So when we did it on stream the other day, first of all, the actual tier 10 delvings were fun as all get out. Like it was like a raid boss solo. It was fun. Like I was playing a hunter and we were killing this turtle, and it was like the most devastating hit. Like if the turtle hit me like 3 times in a row, I was dead. So like really had to use your traps well. You had to like use your stuns well. It was really fun. It was very like unique. However, what I noticed is that the amount of rewards that they gave for the end of a tier 10 dungeon meant that in order to get one piece of gear, I think that we did the math, you would have to run 50 tier 10s or something like that. Like it was like 50. 30. Was it 30?
For one
teal
teal piece of gear. Yeah.
For one teal. Okay. What do you think about that pacing? I would actually just be super curious. Do you think that's a good pacing or no?
I am always in favor of less grind. So it sounds like a lot to me. Because that's like, so you really have to consider how long it takes to run a delving. If it took like 2 minutes, running 20 minutes of them for 3 days is not that bad. But they clearly don't take 2 minutes unless you're really crazy.
25? 25, 20?
Yeah, so that's what I was actually about to say earlier is that on my Warden, it took forever because they had the reflect. And the reflect just made it go super slow the first week. And then the second week, I thought I'd change it up and do Runekeeper. And I had to use Shocking Touch, just for the record.
Right.
And
that's a situation.
I went through them in like 5 to 10 minutes each. So it's significantly faster.
Right.
So it really depends, I think, how quickly you go through it. But to me, 30 is a bit much from what I've experienced in the beta, basically.
Totally.
Do you think it's an issue, the fact that they're like only letting you do 10 a day? Because that, to me, that seems like... So here's my big issue that I ever had with MMOs in general. Like, for example, Guild Wars 2. I like throwing that back because I played for so long playing it. In like the living worlds, when you're doing like or living seasons, I forget what it's called. When you're doing that, you have your daily grind. You can only get so much of like a resource that allows you to get your ascended item, and then you have to come back the next day. And then the same thing with like WoW. It's like doing your rep grinds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that like overall? I personally have never been a fan in daily caps. I think it's stupid in my opinion, because I feel like they should let a player go at their own pace instead of at the like artificially stopping them.
I definitely used to be in favor of that thought. I do think it sometimes can make sense for some sort of limit on the day, but honestly, 10 delvings is already a lot. So then I begin to question why not just let you do more?
Yeah.
Because it could take quite a few hours to get through 10, especially if there's really bad reflex or your damage is just low. I don't know if it'd be worth doing it at that point. That's another consideration, but yeah.
I think what Rescue, the thing that he says that I very much resonate with when it comes to time gating is it. And maybe you guys can agree with me or disagree with me here, and I'd actually be really interested. So it feels like devs time gate things because they don't want the casual player to A, burn out, or B, do so much content that they get the gear and then they stop playing the game, right? That seems to be the general idea behind time gating is if you can keep people involved longer, they'll pay for subs longer, they'll, basically it's a money-making thing. However, I feel like the problem with time gating is most of the time it actually doesn't affect the casual player because the casual player is time gated by life. You know what I mean? The reality is like life is their time gate, but the hardcore player is the one that actually really affects. And so it makes me wonder, do devs just maybe think about this in the wrong light? Like if you make a game that's great to live in, you don't have to time gate it because people just want to play it. Like I'm standing right now on my stream on like Weathertop and just looking out. It's like freaking gorgeous world. I just want to play it. I just love this place, and you don't have to time gate anything to keep me out of stuff. Do you guys agree or disagree?
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think that is true. That kind of goes back to what I was even saying with the delvings. Like, it takes a long time to do them, so it's not like every day you'll even get through 10. So it doesn't help those people that might run 1 or 2 tier 10 delvings a day just in a little bit of downtime.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, because at that point, it almost seems like the delving is for the hardcore community. The fact that you need 30 to get a teal piece of gear, and also the fact that you're locking a person at 10 a day, plus also the fact that a delving takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, it's like the fact that the 30 delvings is needed for the teal, that's for a hardcore player.
Right.
But you're locking the hardcore players from getting their progress, even though like the casual player will never get to that point usually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my chat members, Two-Lays, is one of my mods. He did say this, like, tryhards will clear the content as fast as possible to complain that there's no more content. And I do think that that's a real thing, right? Like, you get your tryhards, they're like, there's no content to play. It's like, well, dude, you just grinded for, 20 hours a day for 3 weeks. It's, you kind of completed the game. But I feel like the tryhard is doing that for a purpose, maybe, you know what I mean? And so they're probably they're going to be raiding, they're going to be chilling in the game. Like they're really bought in. I just think that time gating hurts the casual player. And I think that that's what you have to win with. Anyway, but I think that the delving system, I will just say this is like, it was extraordinarily fun. And I don't think that I think the time gating and the cost of things is a little too high in my opinion. But I think that if they were to fix that, which I think is very easy adjustment, I'd say it's a massive win for the game. I was really impressed with the idea of it. I was very impressed with the fun playthrough of it generally.
Yeah.
Like I loved it.
Yeah, it was really fun for me as well. So it would be nice for me to feel like it's worth spending my time running them. And I think that's the big question for me. Is it going to be worth it, or does it take like way too long, way too many delvings to actually get something out of it?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe. So from what I know, delvings is just mostly for gear. Maybe if they added something like, maybe if they added an achievement system for delvings, it might draw people to play it for longer. Something like I don't know, like give them, I guess, like the long-term goal is your teal piece, but maybe something for like the actual like super hardcore players, like giving them a title or having like a leaderboard for the fastest delve clear for that day. Because I know, for example, like I know it's a stupid example. Like, do you guys know what Trackmania is?
I think so.
It's like, I've never played it, but there's like a hardcore following, and it's mostly like a lot of European people play it. Like Trackmania is basically like a drag racing game, and there's like millions of people playing it usually. And every single day they have a daily track. And the daily track basically is like, if you're in the community and you place first in the daily track, it's like this massive tournament that's like you have to beat a certain time and it qualifies you into the race. And then after you qualify, they have elimination rounds and they put you in different elimination brackets. And once you get to that point, they put you up against like 64 other people, and it's like you're versing them and seeing who can get to the end the fastest, the most amount of times. The person who's last gets kicked out. I feel like if they did something where they did like a leaderboard system, and maybe if it's like place first on fastest delve tier 10 for so many days, you get this or something like that. Like an achievement system that gives you like a leaderboards.
That would certainly be interesting. Yeah, I think for me that could definitely make delvings, even expanded to other content, could just give players more motivation to go through it.
Yeah, I like that idea, man.
Speed running is pretty popular nowadays.
Yeah.
If you guys go on like YouTube, I can't tell you how many YouTube channels I see just dedicated to the speed running community.
Yeah.
I would definitely, I think it would be hilarious to see fastest tier 3 level 140 Storm of Methodrist runs
Yeah,
on the speed run.
random stuff like that could be very interesting, I think. Even with like the delvings, just try to get fastest delving time. LOTRO is such a game that's like, somebody mentioned kind of this exact idea, how it's good old true North scale motorsports. About LOTRO is a lot of people play it for the journey and typically have a slower play style with it. So it's not something that I see being all that common with the game, but for me, it is really interesting. I did one stream that was actually a little bit of a speedrun type content. It was a leveling competition between my kin for low level characters. We weren't allowed mounts, all these different restrictions. But people are interested in it because there was some sort of challenge, there was some sort of competition. So I think having stuff like that, even in game with leaderboards, could drive interest in it, even with content creation, which of course helps drive broader interest to the game.
Yeah. That's one thing that I was also like gonna ask you guys. Like, for example, with regards to like content creation for like LOTRO, it's not like it's not as widely known as like, for example, like RuneScape. Like if you look at like RuneScape's content creation with regard, like a lot of people watch that, or like if you look at like Asmongold and stuff like that for like WoW. Do you think like having more content creators within the community would push the game like to be more popular, or like what do you think? How do you think us as content creators actually impact the game overall?
Yeah, I definitely think more content creators is great, which is a great time to mention. For anybody that does not know, Rescue Fat, who is on the top right of the screen, he is a relatively new content creator for LOTRO, and I think started with some other games, correct?
Actually, so I've been doing YouTube for a year. I started back last June, and that was just purely Yu-Gi-Oh. So I've been doing Yu-Gi-Oh content for over a year, and about a month or so ago, like a month and a half, I contacted Standing Stone, and Standing Stone was able to release my account that was basically like pay locked, and I got back into the game, and I just started like I got really addicted to it, and I played a lot of hours, and I'm like, if I'm playing this, why not record my journey and just be able to share it with friends and family and post it to my YouTube channel as well? So I did that, made the edited video, posted it up, and I did really well.
Yeah, so hopefully, real quick, just with the content creation, hopefully your channel can succeed in the future. I encourage everybody watching to at least check Rescue Fat out. And on that note as well, Brightlife, you stream on Twitch pretty regularly and upload on YouTube pretty regularly. Not just LOTRO, but a lot of LOTRO content.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, no, man, it's a ton of fun. I mean, I love doing it. We have a phenomenal community. You know, when I posted this video a long time ago, I said if I was a king for the day of LOTRO, or like king for a month, like what would I do? I think that fixing lag, getting all that stuff, getting the game ready for a large influx of players, and then I personally, like, if I was, because I I operate, it's so funny. I have a lot of different startups that I like operate as like in like the decision making spots for essentially in life, and so I'm always very strategically trying to think about the things that I love, like how do I do this better and all this stuff, you know. And so, like with Lord of the Rings Online, I've thought if you could make the game stable, if you could make it stable enough for a large influx of players, I think that bringing an MMO loving content creator or a couple for like a couple of weeks, doing a really big push on a Twitch, whether it be live streamers or YouTube creators, I think that could really help the game. I mean, I think that like I mean, I think that would be an interesting thing to have happen in this game. You know, like I think that content creators do a really big, they content creators and people much better than myself, you know, the Louis of the world over here on, you know, Twitch, like Green Eyed Gamer, they do a great job bringing players into the game. I think even Rescue Fat, like, I think I had someone in my chat the other day that saw you and like they messaged, they were like, I came into the game because of Rescue Fat's video, you know, like,
that's awesome.
Which is really cool. So, I mean, that does, it gets people excited. And I think that if you can get people to enjoy the game, and I think that if you were to get someone with a larger audience, I think it could really help the game in general. But I think that there's kind of those things that I would say we have to get out of the way first, right? You gotta take care of the game and some of the lag fixes and the graphical updates. I even think the level squish could be really helpful, you know, if we talked about just putting them down in half. However, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think that content creators really do help bring people to the game. And I've noticed that content creators can really help shape the game as well. I mean, if you notice, like, if you watch like a Louis, you know, a Louis, if you think about Louis, like making a comment about the game, and if I make the same comment about the game, if you Rescue make the same comment about the game, and I think if the crowd agrees with us enough to allow us to speak with a voice, then I think that it's interesting to see them talk about it. I mean, even like we were joking, I think, Louis, like you said, there goes Brightlife's idea of having boats in the game next, you know, next time. I don't think that they were doing that because of me, but I think when one person says it and more people talk about it, like I was like, what if we have boats and let's go to Numenor? And then Cordovan in the next stream was like, yeah, we're not having boats and going to Numenor. So I was like, dang it. So anyway, so I think that it can be really helpful for the game, and I think that LOTRO is doing a better job now of including its content creators in its process. Which is good. I can see them doing a lot more things like giveaways and stuff, you know?
Yeah. I know I've complained about the class trait points a lot. So,
yeah.
And see, I'm really excited to see that changed. I mentioned that a whole bunch of times.
Oh, yeah, that also brings up one other question that I had. With regards to class trait points, do you think this signals a future of creating account-wide virtues?
I would love that, but
I'm gonna hit the restroom while you answer that, Louis. I'm gonna hit the restroom. I'll be right back.
So, I would love that, but I don't know how well they could do that because there's just not that many account-wide things in the game. But if they could do it, like if they could make it work somehow, I'm sure there's some capability there. I would love to see that. I don't know if this particular change signals that, but it might signal that they are aware of these things bothering players, like being more annoying than exciting. So I would hope that's the case, at least.
Yeah, because the thing I've noticed is the fact that, like, so for example, I am now level 71 in Isengard, and I am leveling loyalty, wit, wisdom, honesty, and what's the other one? Honesty or something like that. So I'm leveling those 5, and none of them are maxed, even though I'm doing all the content in every single zone, and I'm getting as much virtue XP, because that's a big goal of mine, to get as much virtue XP as I can. Yeah. I'm not even like maxed within any of them because I'm trying to spread it out between those. And the weird thing is, like, I've seen people talking about, like, in my kin chat, talking about stuff like, for endgame content, you should have 80 on every virtue. And I'm like, how do you get 80 on every virtue? It's like you only get 2,000 virtue XP for doing anything.
That definitely becomes more important the higher tier raids. It's honestly, there's just a certain point where you can kind of make up for that and like skill and gear, assuming you don't already have maxed gear and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's virtue XP is a tough one. I think getting the like 5 that you regularly slot up to the max isn't necessarily that bad. There's a little bit of work involved, but then getting every single one max to get all the passive stats, that can be very tough. And I would be a big fan of a better system for that, especially when you mentioned account-wide virtue. That is where I think they could really improve it, because then the game would be a lot more alt-friendly. That's one of the things that trait points is helping. But like if I have my main character, when I get him to 140, I have all these things to boost his virtue XP. But setting that aside, I'll have basically all my virtues maxed on him when he gets to 140. My other 140 characters, I'm not doing that on. But then for like, if I this is getting really bad because my whole character thing is messy right now with my high level character. So setting that aside, if I got one character to the level cap, had a max virtues, and then I decided I want to level a second character, well, he's going to be way behind in his virtues, which is actually very impactful with the stats. So it's something I would love to see in short.
I think also another issue with regards to the virtue system is you said like getting your 5. So like if you focus on your 5 virtues, you may be able to get them to 80 by the time of endgame if you're going through every single quest and actually playing the game that's meant to be. And mind you, I think that's one of the really good things that LOTRO does. It actually makes you have to go through the quests instead of just grinding like Storm of Methadris or Sword Hall. But
Yeah.
the bad problem about that is, for example, like I'm a Rune Keeper. I can spec as healer, or I can spec as DPS. But one virtue is like certain virtues are very specific to like
Yeah.
DPS role and healing role, because I'm not going to have outgoing healing rate from the from like the what is it, I forget the one that does it. Is it Zeal? I may be wrong. But there's like one virtue that does outgoing healing rate, and that's like really important, I've heard, for healers. And I'm not going to have that when I reach max level.
Yeah.
So I could probably never do like max healing.
Yeah, and there's even other complicated stuff, like not even just for tanks, but sometimes you, for particular fights or raids, certain content, you might want your mitigations up. So you might want to actually go more defensive end with your virtues, and there's a lot of stuff like that that can be, I think, just fairly annoying with trying to do the virtues.
Yeah. What do you think, Bright? Like, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such an interesting thing. So I've got my. Are you talking about the virtue traits, like the 5 at the top?
Yeah, the one that gives stats.
So one thing that was interesting was Maru. Maru, one of my viewers said, which I think is a interesting thought, is that if you, the only thing that might be a problem would be if you've played through the game a lot and you had every maxed out virtue, that then the balance of a character, it'd be hard to. They're like stat boosts. So essentially your level 1 character would be a lot stronger than somebody else's level 1 character, which I don't know if that has a huge role to play in a game where there's not a lot of open world PvP or like a dedicated 3v3 arena. But that could be an issue if one day that did happen, right? If they were ever going to build in like a 3v3 arena or something like that, then your level 19 character versus my level 19 character would be a lot better because you've been a good boy and actually played through the game, unlike me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah. That'd be the only thing. If I were going to make one thing account wide, it would be mounts. It would be mounts, and it would be
nice.
emotes. I think those are the two things that I think probably. I've had a couple people in my chat go, "Hey, I'm so excited! I got this mount. I bought this mount," and then they go to change over to another character, and they're like, "Wait, they're not account wide," which is a very jarring thing for the modern MMO player. Because when you're a modern MMO player, most of the time your mounts are account wide. So that can be frustrating for sure.
One thing that I've thought a little bit about, mounts is an important one, don't get me wrong, but emotes, it drives me crazy when a certain character has an emote. And then I log in another one just expecting I have it, and I don't. And then I often forget where I even got it from. And then it's just like, annoying.
No, I agree. I mean, for me, like I'm the chicken drive is like a big thing. You know what I mean? Like I do the chicken driver emote off the top of any like good looking Vista. And now anytime I create an alt, I can't do it, which is frustrating,
Yeah.
But anyway.
I have something I wanted to mention with regards to, like, you were saying the fact that like an alt may be more powerful like than like somebody who hasn't actually played the game. I think one of the interesting things that they could do, and I mean it would fix it and would help, because mind you, when you're at really low levels, the passives are useless. And also, like, when you're at really low levels, you can only slot one virtue. If you have like a level 1 character, you're gonna have your passives, but the passives are basically useless. Because the thing is, like, the way that I know the leveling works with regards to virtue caps is it's half of your max level. I think it's like
at least
it's close
to start.
At the start it's close to that. So when you're level 2, you can only get like level 1 on any of your virtues, and when you're like level 4, that means you can get level 2 on any of your virtues. And I think that would be the way to solve it if they wanted to create account wide, even for low level characters. Because if you're like level 1, you can't slot any virtues. It's not going to matter. You may have some very small passive bonuses, but who's doing PvP at level 1? And
No,
then
it's
you
true. Yeah.
and then as you go up, like if you're like level 5, if you're like level 10, okay, you may have 5 on each, but still those passives, it may be like an extra piece of jewelry, but that's not that strong. You can bridge that with a skill gap is a thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like the funny thing I hear people complaining about a lot, and especially in my guild, it's like, yo, don't gift your way up to level 140. Don't gift your way to like level 120, because they're like, you're not gonna know how you play your class, and that's one of the big complaints I see people talking about. Like, don't Valar yourself because you're not gonna know how to play Warden if you've never played it before. And at that point, it's a skill issue.
It's true.
That one I've seen. Actually, people say they like Ballard a character and were excited, but then they didn't know how to play them, didn't know what to do, and they just delete the character.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy.
That definitely happens for sure. Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I love account-wide virtues. I'm seeing some comments in the chat saying similar things and basically having it work where it's capped based on your character level.
Yeah.
Which is sort of how they pretty much how they have it now.
Yeah. I think it would be like the fact that they did class deeds and they're cutting that out with regards to even epic quests. That's like, I think, step 1 to make the game extremely accessible for modern players, because that's like the modern MMO experience. And then if they do account-wide virtues, then that's kind of similar to like ESO when you get to like max level and you start doing it. What is it? The
champion points.
Yeah, the champion points. It's the same exact thing. And I think it would be very, very it would be incentivizing for new players to be able to play it and be able to do that. And it would probably make the game feel extremely like modern in a sense, because the thing is, I've heard people complain about the fact that it's like, oh, it's tap target, and I'm like, yo, tap target's classic. What are you talking about?
Classy, bro.
Yo,
I agree.
I love tap targeting. I've been doing that since the original WoW, and I've been doing that. I mean, you could say RuneScape is tap targeting.
True.
And
Just
there's a big difference, I feel like, with regards to that. It's like, in my opinion, I think tap targeting is like intertwined with the MMO genre. And it's like, if you want to play something that feels like nostalgic, you have that combat system.
Yeah, it's true. They've definitely got their pros and cons for sure. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. It's such a great thing to think about. How do you make the game more alt friendly, right? And I think what's interesting is what is really fascinating, back to before the shadow, is the delving system is actually very account friendly. So if you get a piece of teal gear in the delving system, it's actually bound to your account. So if you equip that gear and then eventually you get a higher raid tier level, essentially you could create 2 clothies. You know what I mean? You could level up a lore master and then you could level up a rune keeper. They use cloth, right?
Yeah, it's cloth.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyway, but you could level up Runekeeper, and then you could essentially just hand that gear off to them when they hit 140, and then you have full T3 raid gear, which is very cool. And I think it's a great system.
I guess you might not have experienced this yet, but a lot of the instance gear is actually like that as well. A lot of it's bound to account, so you can just send it down to your alts when you replace it.
Oh,
it is more alt friendly, so I definitely love that as well. Of course, if it's like a class specific raid set piece, then it's a little bit less so, but all the non-restricted ones like that.
Oh, and raid gear is the same. I had no idea. I'm learning something new, guys. I'm sorry about that.
I didn't know either, but usually the thing is,
that's smart.
I mean, most of the time when you're doing your instances, you're getting your marks and your skirmish hit points, and usually if you want to level up your character's gear, you just go to the skirmish camp. At least that's what I do. With regards to like
for leveling characters, that's definitely true. That's a great source, especially certain level caps, certain level ranges. But with endgame, they don't really use that system anymore for gear. I think it stopped around level 100, 105-ish, somewhere around there.
Right.
Somebody can correct me in chat if I'm wrong there for the exact level. Speaking of chat, this was a little bit ago, but a lot of them were talking again about the content creators and how Standing Stone Games has, as of late, compared to maybe even a couple years ago, been making a lot more changes, like taking in more player feedback, it seems, and actually changing things in the game or whatever they're going to release based on feedback, which really has been great to see. So I think it's something we already actually have evidence of, that
Yeah.
content creators can be a force for change in the game.
I wish I could talk on this, but I just joined 4 weeks ago.
Louis been holding it down for us, dude. He's been holding it down for us. He's been making this game better. I think it's fascinating that Global Enad 7 had to cancel the Marvel MMO, right? And then they said we're going to take that money that we were going to use and put it back towards our current projects, which their largest one is, of course, Lord of the Rings Online. I'm wondering if there's probably a correlation there. You know what I mean? Which is cool.
Is Lord of the Rings Online bigger than DDO, or is DDO bigger?
It is, yes.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings Online by a large margin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel sorry for the content
We have
DDO.
or at least had actual figures on it to show how much
Yeah, we
bigger
did.
at one point with EG7.
It was
They have that out there.
Like,
I'll see if I can find it while you talk.
the whole acquisition thing, like, no matter how things turn out with that, one positive thing from Enad Global 7 is them actually publishing this information about, like, even just the revenue, because that gives you an idea of how relatively big, I guess, LOTRO is. And they even had, like, at one point a breakdown of how many subscribers there are to the game. Now, I kind of question how many of them are just leftover lifetime subscribers that maybe don't even play the game. So there's a little bit of
Very fair.
whatever word I'm looking for there. But yeah,
what do you think would allow LOTRO to grow to the size of WoW? Because the thing is, like, WoW release was back in 06 or 07, and then LOTRO released in 2009. And it was like kind of off the tail ends of WoW, if you think about it. And WoW, of course, is just like it's almost had generational players now. If you think about it, it's been out for what 16 years. WoW has, and it's still going strong, especially with the release of Wrath of the Lich King being re-released in Classic. And I'm not sure how many people actually play like Dragonlance and do like the new content. I heard Battle for Azeroth was kind of mediocre at the time, but what do you think Lord of the Rings Online could do to capitalize on the fact that, like, WoW has kind of had the whole entire MMO market for so long, and it's a weird question, because the thing is, like, MMOs come and go. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of them do. Like, Lost Ark is not, like, there's not a lot of players. We look at, like, what was that one? Bless Online failed. It tanked when it released. It had like 100,000 concurrent on release, and then it dropped to like it was minuscule, and they had to cancel the game. And then you have like Guild Wars 2, which has a loyal fan base, and they're still playing. And then you have WoW, which has the most loyal fan base, and they're still playing a lot, of course. And the content creation for WoW is still pretty big. Of course, with regards to Asmongold, I think he's the one who pushes a lot of the content, and people play the game because of him. What do you think Lord of the Rings Online could do to kind of get in the same like tier as like a Guild Wars or like a WoW?
that's tough. Because LOTRO has been around almost as long as WoW. I think WoW has been, what was it, 2004 and LOTRO 2007. So it only released like 3-ish years after.
Was it 2004 for WoW? Let me look this up.
I don't know for a WoW, but LOTRO was definitely 2007.
Yeah, WoW
because
was
we just had our
2005.
15th anniversary.
It says November 23rd, 2004 was when WoW released. And then let me look at... I literally just made a video on this. Lord of the Rings Online release date, and I literally put in the very beginning when the release date was. 2007 was when LOTRO came out. I mean, yeah, and then you have, like, for example, The Old Republic came out in 2011. And the thing is, like, LOTRO has been around as long as these big dogs, and perhaps longer. It's been out longer than Guild Wars 2. It's been out longer than The Old Republic. It's been out longer than Star Trek Online and stuff like that. But the thing is, like, yes, we have a really loyal, like, fan base for Lord of the Rings Online. Like, I've seen these. It's funny. I'm looking at Global, and everybody's like, I have Lifetime, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people who still have Play and have Lifetime. And but the question is, like, are they drawing in as many players? Like, could they have, for example, if Standing Stone really wanted to push the game, could they have like advertised during the Rings of Power through Amazon saying, "Hey, we're doing a new expansion, and this could be, and it's going to be Rings of Power based"? Would that draw a lot of people in? Is it
Mhm.
more of a marketing issue, or do you think it's a gaming issue?
There's a probably I don't know if the game could handle that many players.
That's
So I think that's probably the first thing. I think that the thing
yeah.
that you know, the 15th anniversary showcase was there was a lot more chugging of the servers when it was just a basic, you know, back to I don't even remember what was the concurrent Steam player amount. Like it was a chunk. However, I would say that, you know, when it comes to this game and WoW, I wonder if there's almost another game that you'd want to shoot for, because I think when it comes to World of Warcraft, ESO, Final Fantasy, some others, those are like the like hundreds of millions of dollar budgets. You know what I mean? Like in those
Yeah.
games. And I
Like
don't
the
think that,
AAA.
yeah, and even like above AAA, because I think you could probably argue that LOTRO is a AAA MMORPG. I don't think
Yeah,
it has the budget of those things. And so I think that WoW has a lot more revenue to work with. And so, you know, that's probably one of the bigger things about this game that it doesn't have. And so I wonder if you know, probably a more realistic like MMO for LOTRO to try to capitalize from would probably be one. Star Wars: The Old Republic would be kind of their biggest competition, I think, because they're
or
both
maybe Guild
lore.
Wars,
What's that?
or maybe Guild Wars.
Guild Wars probably falls into that multi. Yeah, you're right. It's probably there, you know, but that's action combat. So there's a lot of differences. They would need to get a massive investment of capital, I think, and they would need to get a massive investment of marketing dollars. And then I think that they'd have to spin it up, right? Because I mean, WoW has been marketing for decades, and it's been, you know, Mr. T and everybody, right? Like
Those
I
were the
think that
best commercials.
the best commercials.
The
I think
Night
that
of
if
Mohawk.
Right? Come on, man. And I think that if that were to happen, I think we would see something very, very fascinating. You know what I mean? I think that if the capital were to spin up, I think that that would happen. But I think they have to make the game able to manage it. You know what I mean? That's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I think, pretty similarly. As much as I think they could do better at marketing, I think they first need to make the game more marketable, if that makes sense. Like, they need, like, so if they did this big marketing campaign and you had a whole bunch of players come in, I think the servers might catch on fire for one.
Yeah, we
And
wouldn't want that.
Yeah, that'd
second,
be bad.
there would be tons of lag and those people just would not stay. They get in and kind of, I'd expect them to, a lot of them to just leave and never come back after an experience like what I imagine thousands, hundreds of thousands of people just randomly flocking into the game would cause. So
Yeah,
I
almost
think setting up like the infrastructure to handle a lot of players and then also doing a lot of polishing on the game, which might include things like improving some of the graphics and making it look like I guess a more appealing game, a more modern game, would help there.
At
Yeah,
that
and
point, it's just an investment issue.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we'd want to make sure that, like, you want to maintain is, I don't know, this probably sounds really lame for me to say, but I think that the community of LOTRO is so good. You know what I mean? Like, I've noticed that, like, the world chat is really sweet. The, like, just the people in this game are amazing, and I would want to be careful because I've played a lot of WoW.
Oh,
really
no.
like I really like the. Let's be positive people and say that the community of LOTRO is a lot more enjoyable to be around, I think, than the WoW community.
Yeah.
I would say that before I have a massive influx of players, I would almost rather, instead of stealing from WoW, I would want to inspire more Lord of the Rings lovers to come over here. And I think that marketing could do that. But I think just having a really solid game that they continue to build up with a little bit of marketing capital would be good. I really love the community, and I think that the slow growth is probably the best way to do it. I don't know if you guys would agree with me on that one. It's just one of those things that I'm very like, I love the community of this game.
That makes a lot of sense. It actually parallels, at least somewhat, my perspective on making videos on YouTube. But yeah, I see chat talking a lot about that as well and what they could do there.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, I will say this, like, I've put out videos on LOTRO and I've put out videos on Rings of Power, And I put out videos on a lot of different things, and I put out videos on WoW, and I would say that the reaction of comments based just positivity wise, is a lot more friendly in the LOTRO videos. I would say that if you go over to the WoW video, man, people are like, "This is a trash idea. You suck." You're like, get rid of mythic quest timers and stuff. That maybe people would be less stressed. But I don't know. I think this game just has a really great community. I don't know. It's a hard thing, you know.
I can agree with regards to community.
Yeah. I can like make the weirdest build in LOTRO that only makes sense for something very specific that I'm doing that like wouldn't make sense otherwise, or just doing it for fun. But that's something in like WoW, I always feel weird if I'm making a video or doing a stream and I just have like, there's always this worry of being, I guess, off meta with your build and the criticism that comes with it. Even though I just ignore that and do what I want for fun anyway. But it is really true that I think people in LOTRO are very friendly. I'll put it that way in comparison.
I would definitely say the
overall.
same. With regards, like, for example, in the first video that I made for LOTRO, I got tons and tons of comments on it, and everybody was like, I love the video, and they were all talking, and the thing was, it was almost like a nostalgia reunion, talking about how they remember playing the game, they came into it. The funny thing was, I got a few comments riffing on me, saying that, because I originally pronounced it LOTRO points, and they're like, yo, that's wrong, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce it. Yes, somebody was talking, put in the comments, they're like, dude, you're saying it wrong. It's supposed to be LOTRO, not LOTRO. That sounds stupid. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I've only been playing for this long. But besides that, I'd say the community is great. Global chat can be nice as long as they weren't riffing on Rings of Power and hating on people that actually liked it. Oh man, I can't tell you. Like I was watching, so me and my dad were watching Rings of Power, and I would like hop on this after, and I just see people like flaming the current episodes, and they're like, anybody who likes Rings of Power is not a true Tolkien fan, and I'm like, yo, what's getting your panties in a wad, you know?
You guys want me to type Biden into world chat right now and just see what happens? Do we just want to do a quick test?
Oh no! Dude, if you do that, you're gonna get flamed.
I am chaos.
I love it. Sometimes be fun. But I always have world chat up, so I have not watched Rings of Power yet. I really do promise I am going to watch it. I just haven't yet. I know.
Never read the books either, dude. Come on, man.
At least I watched the movies again.
I would give it a 7 out of 10.
I think Brightlife had a similar number for that. Although to me, 7 sounds perfect.
Rings of Power, cinematography wise, great. I love the music score, phenomenal. I think the music score is insane, especially the dwarven music. Oh my god, when they go into Khazad-dûm and stuff like that, it's insane. But the thing is, like, they have so much good stuff in the show, but the writing. So here's the thing.
But no, we can't spoil it. We can't spoil it because Louis hasn't seen it yet.
No, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to say one thing.
Okay.
When you watch it, there are a pair of characters that are the best entire thing of the show. I think these pair of characters, I could watch a whole entire show about them. But then you have one character whose lines are just really bad. Like, it was just poorly written, and I think it was due to the fact that Amazon did not have the rights to the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
That was I think that was the downside. The fact that they didn't have the rights to the Silmarillion, so they kind of had to like go off trail with their own story, which is the only bad part.
I think that's like that general concept of me not having watched it yet, but that general idea I think is a type of show that I'd probably enjoy. And as Sandy says here, it's like just enjoy the visuals of Tolkien's world in the show.
Yeah, just enjoy.
So better than not seeing Tolkien's world.
Yeah, excited for that. And I can typically, at least with movies, TV shows, or whatever, can get past that type of stuff.
Yeah. But it is interesting. Have you seen, Louis, do you think you've seen an influx of players from Rings of Power? Like in, kind of getting back to before the Shadow, do you think that's going to capitalize? Like, what do you think is going to, the ethos of the game, like, is that going to shift at all because of the Rings of Power?
That is really interesting because it's something I hadn't even thought about, maybe because I haven't watched the show. I have not seen many comments from people saying like they came from Rings of Power,
I'm one.
but
Yeah.
I've occasionally seen it. So I don't know, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know. What did you think, Rescue? Did you say yeah?
Yeah, I'm one. So the thing was, that's what actually got me back into Lord of the Rings Online. I
Chris
took
as well
yeah, I
from
got
chat.
into it because of the fact that I was watching Rings of Power, and I'm like looking at like Gondolin and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh my god, I remember going through a region in Lord of the Rings Online when I was a kid, and I remember seeing this sort of stuff, and I'm like, man, this is nostalgic, and I'm like, I gotta get back into this game. And I did a long recovery process with Standing Stone and got back into the game and started making content.
There you go.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
did you say a region?
Is it a Region? A Region?
It's okay. We're gonna. It's Lotro, and then it's a Region.
Yeah, okay, good.
Regian?
I was actually worried because I call it a Regian.
Okay. Were you
I thought
waiting
it
on
was
the
a
edge of your
Reggie.
seat, Louis? No, it's okay. It's a Region. No, it's not a it's not a big deal. I was just messing around. I'm messing around. So do you think, Rescue, based on like you came back for Rings of Power? So this is a great question for you. Like, hey, I loved this game and I thought that was going to happen. Do you think that Before the Shadow coming out at this time is going to be good for the Rings of Power crew that's coming back that wants to level through a new experience, like new player experience for you? Do you think it's coming a little bit too late? Like, where do you feel?
Um, Here's the thing. I do think it's a good experience for new players. I am definitely gonna level a Dwarden through the new zones. I like the fact that they got rid of class restrictions. I think that was another thing that was kind of locking the game. I was never a big fan of that, especially because I used to play like Diablo, and the
Hmm.
fact that you had like certain locks on your characters, even in Path of Exiles. Like my favorite character in Path of Exiles was the Templar, but if I want to play a female Templar, I can't. I have to play the old man without any pants in Path of Exiles. If you guys if anybody's ever seen it, um, yeah, in Path of Exiles, the Templar all he wears is a tunic and he doesn't have any pants, and it's a joke in the game.
That's me
But
all. That's me all day.
but
I can't stand up right now.
oh no. But the funny thing is, like, I think it will be really good for regards to people getting back into the game, but there is a caveat, and I think that they released it a little too late. Because the thing is, if they released it like at the finale, then yeah, a lot of people probably would have joined. But they
Yeah.
didn't release it at the finale, so now we're kind of at like a it's like a weird place where it's like, yeah, we still have people watching it, but they're trailing off. Maybe they're and maybe they're getting into the game, but they're kind of doing it really
Yeah.
slowly because of the still
Mhm.
current content experience. I think if they had done Before the Shadow with its reworked leveling system at the finale, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thought. Like, what would have happened, right? I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting thing to see. I'm excited.
I've just seen, first of all, Augustus. I hope the stream is hilarious in a good way, not hilariously bad. But moving on from that, I think that. So,
Stream is hilarious. Sorry.
all I know
That's
about
funny.
Rings of Power is that it's set in the Second Age, I think. Hopefully that's even correct. I do
Yes.
know that Before the Shadow has some Second Age content. I will avoid spoilers beyond that. I have not actually quested through it, first of all, so I don't know questing wise if there's any Second Age content or anything like in relation to Rings of Power, basically. So I wonder if it's something that people would even know that Before the Shadow might have something related to Rings of Power that they can see and maybe explore further in the game. I don't. I haven't even seen this advertised at all by Standing Stone Games. The only way I saw that was actually playing through the beta.
Yeah, I am of the opinion with regards to. Uh, I have a few opinions about Lord of the Rings Online with what they could do with regards to bringing people into the game. I think my personal opinion with regards to like the main thing they could do is if they took one entire expansion and made a creep system that's open world. And because the thing I feel like a lot of people like, yeah, I mean, being a dwarf or being an elf or being a human or being a hobbit is like the classic Tolkien experience. But what if you want to play as somebody who worships Sauron? I think that would be an interesting fact because the thing is, like, they could have interesting stories as well. Like, if you go through a whole entire story of somebody becoming a Kargul, I think that would be sick.
Hmm.
That would be
And
really
like,
cool.
Yeah.
if you chose like you could be like, for example, in like PvMP, you have like Reaper, you have Stalker, you have Spinner, you have Defiler, you have all those, you have War Master. I mean, you already have the class set up to be able to play the game. You just have to create a scaling experience for it and maybe quests. And
Yeah.
not to mention it, you could add more stuff. And I think, to be honest, it would be really sick to be able to see like the growth progression of a warg. That would be insane
Yeah.
because it's like you see him grow up from like a pup almost to like the
Ooh.
pack leader.
That's a good idea, man.
Yeah.
Or
And
you
that's
could have like
something-
you could have a man from Dunland or a man from Angmar being stabbed with a Morgul blade as his initial quest, and you see him grow as a Kargul within his reach of power, and that's his epic
Sick.
storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where I think a LOTRO 2 is like the best idea because then they could introduce that faction versus faction thing. I mean, I would absolutely love that. I don't know.
It's also interesting because I think that's actually one of the reasons I don't really play creeps or monster characters. What do they call them? Monster players? Yes.
Creeps.
So, yeah, creeps is what I basically know them by. But that's one of the reasons I don't play them is because they're, at least when I have dabbled in them briefly, there's hasn't been much of a sense of progression, and they just can't do as much as freeps. So it's something
being locked
like,
to the end more sucks.
technically we had Osgiliath for a brief while, but that has since been shut down. I don't think anybody went there anyway, as far as I know. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had a stream entirely dedicated to this on a Twitch VOD. And I said that I think the best way that they could probably implement it without creating a whole entire questing system for it is having the creep playstyle be invasion based, kind of like a. Have you guys played like Warframe or Destiny?
Destiny.
Neither of those.
Where you have it's a mission based hub out of like the top left of Ettenmoors, and you can level by doing missions instead, but it sends you into the open world, and there can be slight player versus monster player in the open world scaled to levels.
Yeah. They had some events, right? On like the Tom Bombadil server or something like that.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking, like perhaps letting the creeps free in a limited time event server, or even just have it be a permanent server where like maybe level 1 to 50 just creeps versus freeps open world.
Hashtag
That
free
could
the
be fun.
creeps. Dude,
Yeah,
free the
free the creeps.
don't wear that as a t-shirt. That would get you
Oh
in
no,
trouble.
that would be really bad.
But no, I think that if that would actually be really interesting.
Yeah, we need that t-shirt.
No, we don't, dude. You don't want to have hashtag free the creeps out in the world. People are gonna be like, what kind of creep you mean? We want to free.
No, I mean
No.
you got it. What they should have on the T-shirt is it should be like just the eye of Sauron, and around the eye, kind of like the One Ring, it says "Free the Creeps," so almost in Elvish.
Dibs.
In
Dibs.
Elvish, okay, that would help.
Hey, question. I have a question for you guys. It's very random. What is your LOTRO hot take? Do you have any that you're like, I don't know if you're like in the like the complete right about this? Like, what is your what would you like? Do you guys have a LOTRO hot take? You're like, maybe even your audience doesn't agree with you on it, but like this is your hot take. I can answer first if you guys want to think about it, unless you already have it.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Mine is
hot take.
I don't like legendary weapons. I think legendary weapons are not, and my chat fully disagrees with me on this one, which is completely fine. It might, but I think that I feel like legendary weapons they make crafting and they make getting a weapon from like a raid not really that cool. You know what I mean? And I think that the LI system I think is too complicated. I would say take it away. I think that's my hot take. I don't think a lot of people agree with me on that one. My chat says that's only one of my hot takes, but it is my hot take.
You know,
But that's mine.
I would
honestly,
say, like, I like the LI system. I always liked it since the beginning. I
Mm-hmm.
think the original LI system was much better than what we have now. Even though it was
Mm-hmm.
more complicated, it actually made you feel like your weapon was growing with you instead of you just going and buying traceries for agent scripts. I think they simplified it a lot, which is a good thing, especially for new players. But there's always the downside with simplifying something that it doesn't become as impactful on you. Um,
Yeah.
I do think the fact that LIs do exist and the fact that you can only use one weapon is an important factor in the game, especially for the fact that one, it's a nameable weapon, and it makes you kind of feel like you have your Narsil or you have your Glamdring or something like that. But I think there's also a trade-off in the fact that you, as you said, raid weapons don't matter.
hmm
They kind of do though, in the sense, because if you have offhands, they do matter.
I told you it's a hot take, man.
But
I
the offhands are basically a stat stick.
They are a
No.
stat stick though. That's the only issue. But they are cool looking stat sticks.
Yeah. They have started to
Yeah.
add some cosmetics. I'm not always a fan of them, but there are like unique cosmetic drops from some dungeons now. I don't know
I
if
would be
that's
okay.
started.
I
in
would
good
be
or
okay
bad.
with LI skins dropping from bosses that were unique.
Ooh,
That would
that
make
would
it
be
a
cool.
little bit better. But
That's-
like, so like, say you kill Tharlock, right? Like on my character right now, if I click on him, like Brightlife TTV Vanquisher of Tharlock. Like I love that. I like wear that title with pride because it's like one of the coolest ones. It would be cool if like my spear on my warden or my shield could have Tharlock on it, but only if I beat it at like the highest difficulty. I think that would be really cool. But I think as it is right now, they're too bland and the weapon is too essential for me in an MMO like this. That they're just too bland for me. Like even the cool power boosts and stuff, I don't know. They're not cool enough for me. Where like if you get like Thunder Fury in WoW or if you get like you know what I mean? Like you get like this
Yeah.
awesome weapon that is only yours and like you had to work for it. That is completely I think that's missed in this game quite a bit. Like I don't see like, you know, Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. You know what I mean? Like that. I want that in this game. I don't know.
Yeah. There's no like Thunder Fury, Blessed Tracery of the LI, whatever. Sorry.
Sadly, there is
But
not.
yeah, there's no like if you get a tracery for the LI, you have like what there's probably more than 14 now, but you have so many of those that you get on a single LI that it's like even getting one of those it just doesn't feel as exciting as a whole new weapon.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's my hot take. Do you guys have one? Because I'm all about it.
That this is I should have more hot takes with LOTRO, but there are these bushes in the game that are so ugly. I think the LOTRO would just look significantly better if they just deleted all the bushes that look like this.
Right.
Sorry, I'm going to cover you, chat. But these
Are you
bushes,
talking about the ones
Where's
in
hold on.
Lowlands?
I gotta
gotta
pull you
look
up
so
on my other
ugly.
screen. Give me a second. Wait, there's
Same here.
I-
Just give me a sec.
just leave it
Are
on
you
your
talking-
leave it on your stream for a minute so that I can actually
yeah,
here you are. Okay. I want to find the
Same.
bushes.
Just 1 second.
Oh, those
wanna-
bushes. Yeah, those are terrible.
yeah.
For
That's
my
why
chat, it's these
I don't
bushes.
know if it's necessarily a hot take, but I always go on about
great
it.
take.
Oh.
They're just the.
I mean, I don't think they look that bad because they're more like they're like kind of like sprue almost in a sense. I don't know. Maybe it's low res for me, but still, I don't think they're that
I
bad.
will.
No, my chat fully agrees with Louis. They're like, oh my god, I hate those bushes. It's a beautiful hot take, Louis. I like that.
Oh, I'm trying to think. Like, I really do love the game, and I mean, I don't have any real hot takes, I would say. I mean, I have complaints, especially with lag and whatnot, but I think my biggest hot take, as I was saying, was just the fact of I think that they should allow open world PvP with creeps.
I like
Because
that.
I know
Mhm.
people who I've talked with people about it, and they're like, "No, you don't need that. That would destroy the game." And I'm like, it would be a good expansion to build on. Because the thing is, WoW has Alliance and Horde, and the thing is, like, I was always a Horde player. I loved playing orcs. I loved playing trolls. I loved playing all the non-humanoid races. And if I had the opportunity in this game to play a non-humanoid race like a warg, I would play that immediately. No, like no holds bar. I would play that. Like that would be my first character. I'd play a warg. Then I would play probably a spinner, and then I would play like a Kargul, and then maybe like a War Master orc or something like that. And the thing is, like, I feel like one of the things that people don't realize, especially even with regards to like Lord of the Rings on like even the lore, is the fact that yeah, we had this. There was the Second Age, then there was the Third Age. But the end of the Lord of the Rings starts the Fourth Age, and we don't know anything about the Fourth Age. We don't know what's going on in it, but mind you, there's still orcs. I mean, what you're looking at happen in Gundabad, from what I know, is like the trolls and the goblins and orcs are still around after Sauron's gone, and it's like, yeah, like I feel like that's an important thing is the fact that the monsters that were plaguing all of Lord of the Rings are still there, and they're not going away. You muted yourself, Bright.
Sorry about that. No, chatting on a
it's all
follow.
good.
You're good. Keep going.
Yeah, it's the fact that like like the evils that are still in the world, even though I think, and that's the whole point, the main evil is gone, but evil still exists, and it's always going to be growing. It's just the locus of it is gone, but doesn't mean that there still isn't going to be darkness in the world. And I think that would be an interesting thing to expand on. They should do an expansion where it allows creeps to enter into the game past the Fourth Age and say,
Cool.
This is what happened after Aragorn became king. And that would be the epic quest line for the creeps. It would be the fact that, hey, they're still trying to gain power and doing all that they're trying to do to survive in the world with Sauron gone.
Right. I love it. I love it. Hot takes. Okay, Lou, I'm sorry. I'll stop sabotaging. Let's talk about Before the Shadow. We could talk about
I was
Aaron
just
Lewin.
gonna say, open world PvP, you have
start.
good points there, but I don't think chat likes it.
As I said, that's the hot take. People don't agree
yes,
with me.
that means it's a good hot take, unlike
Good
mine.
hot take.
Because I think it would be really... I'm going to be honest, I think it would be fun. What they could do, and I wouldn't mind it, is if you can opt out of World PvP. I mean, WoW has that.
Yeah, if you could opt out, it wasn't forced. I think that would be
I
very
don't think
helpful.
that's a problem.
Yeah, but like, how would you see an orc as a hobbit and you guys just run past one another? You know what I mean?
No, but
Like
I mean,
within
it
the
would be the
lore.
same... In
I'm
the
just
lore
kidding.
wise, I mean, even lore wise, if you think about it, wargs aren't going to always attack everything that they see. They're a pack animal. If they know something stronger than them, they're going to run away.
Yeah, and there you go.
That's why I think it could
Fascinating.
be great as like a event server, like they had Bombadil. So it's something that's even a permanent. When I say event server, it could be a permanent server, but like a one server thing. So you don't run into that issue of just like a orc passing by a hobbit and not doing anything about it.
They could
'Cause
also
then
have
there's
like a raidable mechanic.
Hello, cat. There's our producer right there.
Yep.
I love cats. Is that an
Louis'
orange
cat is
tabby?
the only cat that I like. Let's be
Orange
honest.
tabby, yep.
Aw.
The other one's an
How
orange
old?
tabby. They are 4-ish. They might be older. It's kind of scary.
Get it, cat. He's ready to talk. Look at him. Her. Sorry.
Always bumping the microphone. It's just like she's gotta get her scent all over it and say hello to everybody.
I need a cat.
You do need a cat. I think they're the
No,
most
I hate it.
enjoyable
I hate
animal.
I want a puppy. I want a stream puppy that sits and just causes chaos right here. I want a stream golden retriever. That's what I need.
I just don't like dogs. I'm not a big fan of dogs. I know. Okay, that's a hot take. I'm not a big fan of dogs.
We're not. I don't want to fight you that hard, man.
My cat's NPCs.
I love it, man. I love it. Okay, so Louis and Rescue. So you guys have seen, right? Like you've either played through the new zones or Rescue, as you talked about. You've kind of seen some content on it. What are you guys thinking about these new zones? Do you guys love like the? Are you enjoying Swanfleet and Carlin based on what you've seen? Are you guys underwhelmed, overwhelmed? Like, what do you guys think about it? Because I'm like super interested in your take.
They're gigantic. That's honestly my first thought. They are huge zones. It's a mini expansion, but it's the land area we have is like very large. I think
Yeah.
seems comparable to even some expansions. Definitely more than, since people really like to compare the War of Three Peaks mini expansion and now this one to quest packs and say like VIP should get them included in the subscription, things like that. It is definitely more than a typical quest pack, basically.
It's bigger
Yeah.
than Mirkwood.
Yeah,
I'll say
Mirkwood
that
was
much.
relatively
I
small.
disliked Mirkwood, but it's a lot bigger than Mirkwood.
Yeah, I really like it. Have you guys like done a lot of research where you can look at both zones and say which one like maybe you prefer, or are you guys kind of like wanting it to hit you all at once?
I want to go in blind.
All I've done is like run around the landscape, and I've seen the mobs there. There's really interesting mobs at certain levels, is all I will say. It's, to me, kind of hilarious mobs that we would see at like level 50. Now there are level 7 versions of them, because it's right next to Eregion. And I honestly, each of the parts of it I like for their own reasons. Like, I just love Eregion and Elfaria, so I like that part of it for that. I also like, there's a lot of new interesting world building things they have done for the landscape that I like. Cardalin, a lot of interesting connections in the Northwest to stay spoiler free for people that don't even want to know about the landscape, maybe, and what even the zone looks like. There's, I don't know if I could pick one thing out about the landscape or the two zones, though, that stands out to me, really.
It's pretty, though. I know that much.
Yeah.
It is pretty.
Oh,
they did a
like
great
some
job.
of the new,
like
flora that they have. Flora? Is that the right word?
flora, fauna,
Yeah, like the plants. Flora and
The plants.
Flora
Yeah.
is plants, fauna is wildlife.
Yeah.
Louis,
meant
do you like the
plants.
bushes in Swanfleet, or are you against the bushes? Like, do you have a bush problem with Swanfleet, or like what's
Cardalin's okay. Swanfleet
Carlin's bushes are okay?
does have some of the ugly bushes, and to me,
You don't like-
I've talked about this. It would look so much better if they just remove those. So yes,
What
I
would
have
you
a
put-
bush problem
if you
with
had to put one
Swanfleet.
thing in the place of the bushes, what would you put in the place of the bushes? Would you put, like, if it has to have something?
If it has to have something, I would put a more attractive and more like pleasing to the eyes bush. Just one that's not
like
so ugly. Like these ugly bushes, there is one zone I think they actually fit in, and that is Iron Hills, because it's a landscape, it's a type of area that actually makes sense to have ugly bushes, to me at least. So that they feel like they belong there, and all these other places, they just feel so out of place because it's like a pretty area. Then they just stick an ugly bush there or a patch of ugly bushes, and it kind of ruins it.
Louis, if you had to choose between having none of those bushes in the game and your cat the Louis cat would actually be the name of the pet, Louis cat. Like anybody could get it. It's an achievement. What's more important to you?
He's like my cat.
Yeah, I'd have to pick my cat.
You're gonna pick the cat. You're gonna keep the ugly
If
bushes.
I had to choose the two. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've
choose
dealt
the
with the
cat.
ugly bushes.
You can deal with ugly
look-
bushes. That's just
Just
part of
don't
it.
look at them.
I mean, nobody likes to look at an ugly bush. Let's
But
be
you
honest.
can't just add one Louis cat. While the other one is barely up here and often off camera, she needs to be included as well.
I feel like the Louis cat as a pet would need to make the sound that I am hearing in my earphones every time she rubs her head. Like it just needs to sometimes just needs to go like, you know what I mean? Like just a little bit, just to make you jump.
I always ask people if the sounds are annoying, but nobody says it is, so I just kind of let her do it.
No, it's not bad. It's just more like I don't know how to describe it. It's just a sound.
Cat bonking a microphone sound.
That's it right
Yeah.
there.
It's like
It's perfect.
totally
It's almost
normal.
like it's almost like you're taking your finger and rubbing it over a cardboard box. That's the best thing I can give it to.
Probably
Like
too
a
far
description.
away.
It's cat. Sorry, one of my chat members goes cat ASMR. We just changed the category.
That's what people
Yeah,
have said.
Put ourselves to just chatting, put ASMR cat noises.
This is $1 million idea, you guys.
Yeah. Instead of Fellowship Chat, it'd be Cat Chat.
Yep.
Chat. It's a good name.
She
It's a good
always
name.
tries to knock the cat cam down.
Okay, if you guys had to, and then I'll stop sabotaging. If you guys have like one favorite zone that you play through, and then what zone would you say like everybody needs to play through this zone for sure? Like this is a highlight zone for you, and then what's like the worst zone in the game for you? Like if you had to choose, you have to get rid of one zone and transform it maybe even into another zone. Which ones would you guys choose?
Man, that's okay. The second part's easy. The first part's a little bit tougher, but okay. When you say zone, can it be an entire region,
Oh,
or
he's
you
gonna
want a
say Moria.
specific zone? Because I'd
you can
consider
do
Moria
That's fine.
region. Okay,
Remove the region, but you have to replace it with the zone that you love.
get rid of Rohan and
Really
copy Eregion throughout all of Rohan.
fascinating.
Oh. I have kind of a hot take.
Wow. Wait, hold on. Before you do yours, so you would get rid of Rohan in general, and you would just make like a bigger Eregion kind of thing throughout Rohan. What about Rohan is so
Yeah.
bad? Is it just boring?
Basically, yeah. Questing
It's
is boring
open, isn't
there.
it?
I also feel like I hate to criticize the LOTRO world building because I do think Rohan is great, but certain parts of it I don't think are necessarily their best work in terms of world building. So it doesn't have many redeeming qualities. That said, the area around Edoras, and especially West Rohan, the one that I actually like the questing least, is very pretty looking.
That's fascinating. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay,
it's
I'm sorry.
mainly on the basis of questing that I would get rid of West Rohan. Or if they totally revamp the questing in the style that something like Eregion is in, then I would probably love it.
Dang. Okay. All right. Rescue Fat. What's your?
I would say my favorite zone is either Trollshaws
That's a good one.
or Angmar.
That's also good.
I would replace Lone Lands with Angmar.
Mm.
I hate the Lone Lands so much. It's the worst zone in the game.
You hate the Lowlands? That the
I
Lowlands is
hate
the
the
worst
Lone
zone?
Lands. It's just
Yeah.
it's so bland, and I understand it's called the Lone Lands,
Mhm.
but it's so like I have done every single quest possible in the Lone Lands, and I kid you not, because I literally went through the whole entire quest thing on the wiki, and I did almost every single quest in there, and I'm still not kindred with the
Eggling? Is
Lone
that-
Lands with Eglin. I am not kindred, even though I've done every single possible quest in the whole zone, and I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
One,
the rep
it's
there.
everything's so far from each other. The quests are really boring. The only good part is when you're going to the fortresses in the south. The swamps to the north suck. They're like really, really annoying to navigate through. The quests are so boring inside the swamps. Garth Agrowin is a cool like instance, don't get me wrong, but you'll never find people to do it on level with you. It's really difficult to. And
Yeah,
it's just like there's just so much with the Lone Lands that is bad.
Right.
And
I
it's
think-
funny
I think-
because
Yeah.
I was going through the epic quests, and then you go into like volume 3, and you go talk to Candate at his camp, and he's like, "I'm going to miss these lands. I've fallen in love with them." I'm like, "Bro, you're tripping." I'm like, "What are you talking about? This place sucks. You've been stuck camping here for like a year, and you're
For
just
years.
sitting next to your horse, and you're getting
But-
no food. How do you like this place?"
But Lowlands has Weathertop, so I mean, I
That's
feel
the
like that
only thing.
alone, that alone, man, pushes it up. You know what I mean? Like
No.
just a little bit. No.
Weathertop, okay, if they made Weathertop in and of itself a good leveling place, but it's not. There's nothing in Weathertop to do except do the quest.
fair.
That's the bad part about it. Like
That's
I'm literally if they made it where orc encampments were all the way to the top and you could do a full run through and at the top of Weathertop was a boss, like a Cargul boss for level 30s, bro, I'd be happy with that. I think that would be really sick. But the issue is Weathertop has nothing to do on it. One, you can look over the landscape and yeah, I mean it's a great vantage point and it's good to flex your graphics card. But the issue is like there's nothing really to do in Lone Lands except just go to the south, walk through the fortress with goblins, go to the north, walk through the fortress with spiders, go to the north, walk through the fortress of Swamp, go to the east,
Bro.
walk through the fortress of Ivar the Bloodhand, and then you're done. And it's like the area sucks.
I love it. I love this.
You know,
This is it. This is the kind of spicy content we need for
Yeah.
Fellowship Chat, Louis. I mean, this is it right here.
yeah, and thinking along that, so I've done a lot of videos reviewing zones. I know Brightlife, you've done kind of similar. And I've done that, but I have never done a most underrated zones in the game. And I think Lonelands would be near or at the top of the list, along with Ingmar for that matter. But
They're
yeah,
underrated?
Lonelands. Yeah, I think a lot of people underrate Lonelands.
What do
Get
you
it?
mean? It
Come on.
sucks.
Let me no.
So-
Let me moderate this fight right now. This is the content that we need. This is gonna push it. Okay, so Louis, why is he wrong? Why is this guy Rescue Fat taking the biggest Lotro L right now of all time? Like, I mean, really, he's trashing one of the best zones in the game. So,
Everswim sucks.
oh, get him out of the chat. Get him out of the. I'm just kidding. No. I was just messing around.
Yeah, no,
Do you think it's
Lonelands-
underrated? Why do you think it's underrated?
Well, I think the environment is a big turnoff for people because it's kind of the same yellow savanna throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
So you don't get much variety. It is like these fortresses and swamps. Maybe they add a little bit, but it's all kind of samey. And then also the questing. I don't think people necessarily like the questing, it seems, but that's actually where I think Lowlands is a great zone. I think a lot of the quests are fun, except I will say there's some odd part in the middle of the zone that just feels off. But the western part of the zone and the Agamar area are very fun for me to quest in.
Come
The
on.
biggest
like the
issue
questing
with
style.
the Lonelands quest is the fact. Okay, so if you go to the fortress in the southeast, not the farthest one in the southeast where all the trolls are, but if we're talking about the one where you have like the Egg Lane encampment next to like the Goblin Fortress, I forget its name. They send you on quests all the way on the other side of Lonelands to do, and you have to run all the way back, and that's so bad. Not to mention the fact of like, it's just, I don't mind the fact that it's barren. I mind the fact that they don't use the barons to actually promote the content. Because like, here's the funny thing, and this will explain why I hate Lonelands. Lonelands is the barons of Lord of the Rings Online. And I hate the barons. The barons in WoW are the worst leveling experience you'll ever experience in a WoW. Like, I literally was playing Classic, and I got to the barons on my Orc Shaman, and I'm like, man, this is gonna suck. I'm like, this is gonna be so bad.
But you want open world PvP killing, and but in that what the Barons is known for?
No, it's not. The Barons is not bad for. Okay, I was playing Classic. I never saw a single Alliance person in the Barons.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
The
You guys
biggest
are
issue-
amazing.
I mean, to be honest, I made this joke in World Chat and everybody agreed with me. I said Tom Bombadil is the equivalent to Mankirk in WoW. If you know who Mankirk is.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's like a meme character. They memed him so hard. Because in
I
the
love it.
Barons, he had like the Mankirk's wife quest where you had to find his wife. And you got Tom Bombadil asking you to do stuff for Goldberry. And I'm like, they're the same. They're like, everybody's like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys! I'm so sorry. This is my my wife just texted me. I gotta help her get out the door, and we got family things today. I'm so sorry. I gotta roll, but I am gonna send the raid over to Rescue Fat if that's okay, and then
That's all
I'll leave the Discord up just with mic off and all that stuff because sometimes it can kind of screw up the whole OBS thing. But thank you guys for letting me come hang out with you guys. You guys are the best.
I think I'm personally set if you do leave, but really appreciate you joining today. Everybody, you can find Brightlife in the comments. He has a lot of Lotro videos, streams, etc.
You guys are amazing.
I'm in the
Thank you so
description,
much.
not the comments.
I had a great time.
I've had an absolute blast.
In the comments.
For real, you guys are fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna chat with my chat real quick, but thank you guys for having me on. You guys keep going, okay?
Okay.
All right, tons of love, y'all.
So, Louis, Why the Lone Lands, man? Why do you like this?
So I just
I feel
find
like
the
you're a
questing
masochist,
fun,
man.
especially in the west part of the zone. You get like, so one thing I really like in MMOs is if you get tons of quests at once and then you just turn in tons of quests at once, it's a very satisfying feeling. So in Western Lowlands, you get that. And then,
Not
as I
Eastern,
mentioned,
though.
the middle parts of it aren't particularly great. So that's like I rate the lowlands as like a kind of middle tier zone. It's okay overall, it's decent. I don't think it's necessarily a like top zone. I just think a lot of people underrate it.
Yo, welcome everybody from Life at Brightlife's chat. Hope you guys. Oh no, this man just said the Shire is the worst zone. How?
That's not good.
How do you say the Shire is the worst zone? That's you can't do that. The Shire is great, man. Yonder Shire is pretty good also. I mean, yeah, it's kind of samey. See, Wheel of Time is correct. You're not allowed to dislike the Shire. It's classic. You can dislike the Lone Lands. Lone Lands suck. Shire is a boring zone.
Man. Yeah, I like Brightlife's chat because they don't like the Shire. It's a zone I don't mind doing once every once in a while, but it's just something that you're just doing things for hobbits, helping them with the stuff they should be doing on their own, like delivering pies and mail.
I mean, I guess so. The thing. Oh no, this man says the Lone Lands is better than Shire. That's a lie.
So I would more frequently prefer to quest in the Shire than the Lowlands.
Why though? Like, because so here, as you said, okay, we go into like Western. Okay, I do agree with the fact that being able to mass turn in quests is very nice with regards to like the Western Lowlands. It's really fun to be able to at least like go into the Forsaken Inn, get your whole bunch of quests, turn them in, get a massive chunk of XP. But the thing is, like, that's only like at the very start of the Lowlands. When you get to like South Lowlands, like I forget. So you have like the fortresses in the south,
I'm going to
and then you
pull
have
up
like
the map.
Oh, you're gonna pull up the map?
That will
I
help
wish
me
I
a
could.
lot.
I wish I could show it. I have it memorized though. I have the map in my head memorized. I just don't know the names. So you have like the fortresses to the south. Then you have that dwarven underground fortress in the Lowlands also. It's like slightly northeast of that. You'll see the pillars. It's like south of the road. Thanks you guys for all the follows. But the thing is, like, yeah, I think it's nice to be able to mass turn in the quests in the Forsaken Inn. But when you get to that south area, and even to like east, yeah, when you get to like east Lonelands, you have the issue with regards to like they'll send you to the west of the Lonelands to go west, then all the way back east. And if you don't have like fast travel, because I haven't paid for VIP yet, so I don't have fast travel on my characters, it takes forever. Like I'm sitting there like waiting for my writing for like 4 minutes. I can literally read a chapter of this textbook by the time I arrive from the Forsaken Inn to like east to like the bridge going into Trollshaws.
Yeah, I think that is true about the riding. The travel is not very convenient in the zone, which I think can be a fun thing, to be honest. It's a matter of like convenience, which is important, but also immersion to me. And sometimes I do have to admit, I think LOTRO is a little bit too convenient with the travel, but it's almost just a newer style. So I guess it's something that can make sense, definitely.
Yeah.
I can see why somebody would dislike Lonelands for that, among other things. But yeah, if I'm on the map here, so this Nain Inid area, basically that chunk with those ruins, and when you do something with the dwarves, and even Harlog is not my favorite. Some of the quests in Oscarith are okay, but kind of that chunk of the zone is where I find it below average questing experience. It's more the Forsaken Inn area quest that I find above average, and I also do like Agamar. I typically like anything that's group content, like elite signatures on the landscape. I know there's a little bit less of that, and they've changed some things with the zone in regards to that, but
Molins doesn't have much of that though.
Yeah, I typically have a bias towards that type of stuff, but again, it's not there as much as it used to be.
Oh no, Bright's commenting in my chat.
Oh.
Somebody said thoughts on Arid Loon, and then Bright says Arid Loon needs to be nuked. I don't know why he hates Arid Loon so much, to be honest. So I appreciate it, Mario. But the thing is, like, I do like Arid Loon. I think out of all the starting zones, I think Arid Loon is the best. I would say Brelands is the next, and then like Shire is the last. Shire's not a bad zone. I think it's all right, but I think Arid Loon, in and of itself, is a great zone for the fact that it has all of Thorin's Hall, it has Celendim, it has Gondaman, all in those areas, and like mind you, you also have the ability to get access to Sarner, and Sarner is a really fun place to do like level 50 content.
Yeah, Sarner, it's a little bit of a forgotten thing nowadays.
Yeah, so when I used to play when I was a kid, I remember my kin, we would talk about it, and I reached level 46 on my Runekeeper at that time, and I actually went into Sarner, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome as a kid, because you're just going down, and it actually makes you feel like a dwarf. And it's like you're going down these tunnels, and then you're like, oh my god, there's that glowing mob, because I remember when I was a kid, I would go through that area, and I'm looking, and I'm just like casting, because I'm playing like Yellow Runekeeper at that time. I'm kind of going through an installed trip with my Runekeeper playing again, and I'm going casting, and then you're in like your top zone of Sarner. You're going down, you see that doorway to the right, you turn right through the doorway, and you start going down these stairs. You're like, it's not that bad. And then you see trolls, and you're like, I mean, that's a lot of attack. That's a lot of health. And then you try fighting the trolls. And it's like, I can maybe take one of these on by myself, maybe two if I'm lucky, but three, I can't do that. Then you take on the trolls, you're trying your best not to get through. You go through there, and then there's a bunch of polar bears. And then you have all those snow beasts. And you're like, man, I gotta try to get my way through this without dying. And then you kill them, and then you go even lower into Sarner. And it's like, I can't survive this by myself. And I think that's one of the things that made me really love Arid Loon, for the fact that you can go through and there's like low level and high level content.
I think Brightlife is just trying to stir up trouble, of course, but I wonder if he's ever done Sarner. I wonder because that might be significant enough to change his opinion on it.
Sarner was, as I remember, like it was endgame content in the original release.
At level 50. I was never a part of that, but when it was on Anor, when we had the level 50 cap, I went through Sarner, and it was quite fun experience with that kind of delving.
Like, it's a raid in and of itself.
Yeah.
It's an open world raid, which I think is something that like LOTRO doesn't explore that much. That's something that's like old content almost.
Yeah, they've done things like that in the past, but it's something that, especially in Ingmar, I remember a decent bit of content kind of like that, kind of random group content that wasn't necessarily dungeons or something you can't find in the instance finder nowadays.
Was that so you had like the rift to the east, and then if I remember correctly, north of, I think Oghair was the name. Is that the one? Is that the town
that's in Ingmar?
Yeah. Like right to the west of the map, I was walking through the area past like all those like hill beasts, and then all of a sudden you see these like 50k health dragons, and you're level 50, and you're like, the fact that they had those in the game, and mind you, I also think the idea of having roving threats is really cool. Yeah. But the fact like that they have like the ability to kind of weave in group content into the open world is something that I think that's really interesting. Like you don't have that in WoW at all. Like I've never experienced that in WoW, where you have that open world content almost like that.
Yeah, LOTRO has had a lot of open world group content like that. It's always been fun to me, but they don't consistently have it. Like they very randomly had what I would consider basically 3-man stuff in War of Three Peaks, which was the last update, second to last update we had at the level 130 cap. Yeah, basically. And they had some then, but they don't have anything like that in Gundabad, at least that I'm aware of. They had some at level 105. I don't know if there's anything between 105 and 130. There was also level I guess it would have been 100. A lot of people like that. I forget what it's exactly called in Western Gondor, but basically the point is that I think that's something that they should probably explore more in the future. I just wonder if not enough people participate in it is the problem.
Yeah, like I'm looking at like Bright's chat that he rated to me, and a lot of them are talking about the same fact. Like some are talking about Sarner at the moment. They're talking about their favorite zones, and then I see like Wheel of Time saying, when I first went from Trollshaws to Region, I was terrified of the dragons and giants in between.
Hmm.
I think the fact that that in those like low level zones, like the level 1 to 50, there was always a part of the map that you just be exploring, you go through your quest, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, why are these
Yeah.
like massive mobs here? Like you go in the troll shots and you see like the wood trolls and the giant ents, and you're like, oh my god, I can't kill
Hmm.
these.
Yeah, that's something I guess it's kind of hard if you release a level 130 to 140 expansion. They could have some level 140 mobs, but it's something I kind of miss in more like as I'm just going through newly released content in the game is having a little bit of a sense of danger like that. Because for me, I've talked about this a lot with the one of the new zones being like very low level, bordering a level 50 zone with Eregion. The excitement that I get when I see mobs that are significantly higher level and then I like want to go there. And it also does provide, I think, some immersion with a sense of danger.
Yeah, I would
Also,
say.
just real
Sorry, continue.
quick, if you all heard some weird background noise, I was like hearing this fire crackling noise in my headphones. If you all hear that, that is the end game sound. I just happen to have LOTRO up right now, even if you all cannot see it.
I'm not hearing anything personally.
Yeah, it's just
Is it?
playing through the stream and on my headphones.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking through the chat right now, and like, what do you think? Like, this is something that was curious about. So I personally, I have gone through like a bunch of the content. I've gone through like almost every single area. I've done all the content in like most areas. I've gone through all of Arid Lewin. I did all of Breedlands. I did
Hmm.
Lonelands. I did Forchel. I did Evandim. I did almost all of that. Out of all the low level zones, what is your favorite?
So I've
Like, do
already
you like
mentioned
Bree?
Eregion, so I'll skip that one. Kel's really interesting because it's probably a zone that based on what I've described in the stream, you might not expect me to like, but I really like how sparse it is and kind of deserted feeling. I also just love the environment, how like the snowiness, even though, yeah.
I like so it's for me right now. It's for hell. It's not for a chell to
Mhm.
me because of the fact that like I do
I
like
think
the zone,
that's
but
actually a
I
part of the name when people are telling me how to pronounce it. I used to always say forage hell as well, but it's like I don't even think I can do it properly, but it's like for Kel, where you
hell
actually stress
probably
the,
yeah.
yeah, ending of
It's
it.
kind of like almost
Suffix.
like yeah. But the only bad part about Forchel is the fact that like it's every like I love how sparse it is,
Yeah.
but the issue is, as I said, I don't have VIP. And some of these people
Oh,
like
yeah.
I have a like okay, Bright's chat, I have a question. Do you guys, out of all of you, who has VIP? And
That's
who's playing
actually
totally free?
that's something I feel like I missed a little bit when you were describing Lonelands, not having, I guess, swift travel. Is that the big thing?
Yes, that is
Okay,
my big
yeah.
issue. Because the thing is, I don't have VIP. I had VIP when I was younger, but as I said, all those characters got deleted, so I don't have fast travel on my one character. So the thing is, like, okay, some people in Bright's chat are saying they're VIP. Some people are saying are free. My question to them is, do you guys have the same issue with not having fast travel? Does it make zone? Do you hate certain zones because of not having fast travel?
Hmm.
Because for me, that's my main issue. I don't like Lonelands, and I don't like Evandim, and I don't like Forchel because I don't have fast travel.
Yeah.
And that,
Hmm.
yeah,
I feel like to me it wouldn't make a particular zone much worse. I sometimes still even like slow travel, even though I have the option for swift travel.
yeah, because
But I I think it would become a bigger issue not having the swift travel option when I'm traveling between zones and trying to navigate Middle Earth as a whole.
Yeah,
At least
that's
when
the
I don't
thing.
have
Like
ports.
for me, it took me seven. Oh no, it took me a long time. It probably took me around 60 hours just doing the book one epic quests.
I
And that's
wonder. So you can continue.
sorry. And the reason it took so long was the fact that I didn't have any fast travel. So my big thing that I was trying to do and why I was doing the rep grind was to get those teleports that were really
Oh,
useful.
that makes sense. I was going to actually ask, so you're questing through Rise of Isengard content. If you're in Galtrav, as a subscriber, you can swift travel to South Bree and basically have easy access to Eriador.
I don't.
But you don't have that. So how do you navigate, or do you even ever try to go to Bree, for example?
Okay, so I have a funny thing that I do. Um, Basically every single main zone that I go to that I'm currently say like I'm gonna put like 10 hours into at the minimum. I am going to lock my milestone to that area. And the thing is I have the racial because I'm a dwarf of
So you
Thorn's
can go
Home.
to Thorns.
I also have a home teleport at Thorn's Homestead. And I have the kindred teleport for Bree. So I have
Okay.
3 teleports that I can use, and I also did the treasure hunter thing, and I have like 35 maps. So I spent all my tokens on maps after I got all the cosmetics that I wanted. So the thing is, I have enough ways to be able to get myself close enough to a hub to go to certain areas. The thing I didn't realize and made me like start to kind of hate doing like the mains like epic quests was the fact that I had to go to Elrond so darn
Mm-hmm.
much. It was back
Yeah.
to Elrond Simulator, and the thing was I didn't realize that what I could do, and I realized it later. I realized it probably when I was like level 30 was teleport like swift travel to Ettenmoors, and Ettenmoors gets you to Rivendell stables.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's actually how I get across the whole entire world usually.
Ah,
I get across the world by using the Etten Moors swift travel.
Wars. That's an interesting strategy. I wonder, can you do the missions stable masters
Yes, I can,
as
and
free to
that's also
play?
another way I
Okay.
get across the
Yeah,
world.
that'd probably
But
be a little bit of a help.
the only issue with that is you can't go to certain areas, and you also cannot like so for example, missions like I'll use the missions to get to like Trestle Bridge, for example, because that gets me to another mission stable master. But I can't go to like the one in Elder Slade to get myself and cheat a teleport to like Gondor or something like that. Or get a cheat to like Galtrav. It doesn't allow me to do that.
Okay.
Can you use far range stable master at housing districts? Yes, you can, Wheel of Time. But the thing
Yeah.
is, basically what the way that I play is I have to strategically plan out where I'm going to set my teleport points, and then basically say like, okay, I'm going to be here for so long. I can teleport this many times to get certain resources. And then basically like if I'm taking a break, I teleport to a certain place and then just wait for the timer to reset. And that's kind of how I play as a free to play player.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger issues, as I said, the fact when you're trying to go interzone, which sucks. Like
That's kind of
going,
interesting because
yeah.
I've had some people comment they're also curious how non-VIP players navigate. I also often am playing a warden, so I have very easy access with the musters to go all around. I know hunters another very common class to just teleport all around. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
saw in your
something I
video
haven't.
that you were talking about with the leveling guide from 1 to 140. You were
Mhm.
saying about like the your preferences with classes and what's considered good. And I remember in your video you said like rune keepers are slow. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm feeling that right now. The thing is
Yeah,
they have no travel options, which is the
yeah. I
only
think
bad part.
they are
Um
one of, if not the slowest, because they don't even have movement speed boosts. If you're thinking about that, but also
no,
no like ports, of course.
it's funny because I'm still using the epic quest books from from Mirkwood, those boots that you get in Mirkwood that give you 8% movement speed buff. And I'm still using those, and I won't upgrade those boots until I find another one with movement speed buff on them.
That's crazy. But
I
I
mean-
mean, if that's better for you than stats, then that's what you gotta
Well, it's not even
use.
stats. At the point, like, I don't care about my boot stats because with legendary scaling, I don't need to really
Yeah.
care about item stats. So
Yeah,
I
that's
can
true.
just keep these really crappy boots on, but if I get a movement speed buff, it makes my life easier.
Yeah.
I would just say, like, for anybody who's like free to play within the chat, there are a few like cheats, as I was saying. Etten Moors is your best friend if you're going off of a zone, like if you're going from a hub. The Thorns Hall, Shire, Breeland, and Rivendell Stables can all get you to the Etten Moors. Etten Moors will teleport you to any one of those if you don't have fast travel. So if you're trying to go from like Rivendell Stables to like Bree, go to Etten Moors and then travel to Bree. The only bad part and the funny thing is, what's it called? The devs for Lotro talked about what causes lag,
Oh, yeah.
which is stat buffs and the way they count dots and deeds.
Yeah, it's interesting.
When you enter the Etten Moors in scale, it's evident. Because you lag no matter how good your internet is or how fast your computer is every time you go into the Etten Moors because it's scaling your stats upwards.
Yeah, and it's similar with epic battles.
Yeah, you lag. And I mean, it makes sense if you look at it. Like, that's the reason that the game's lagging so much, trying to track all these stats. It's like, okay. I just wanted to make a side note on that. But the way that I travel has kind of impacted my game, to say the least. Funny enough, people complain about Moria. And I actually liked Moria. I didn't think it was that bad because I was used to taking long travel times.
Oh, yeah, I bet. See, that's why I like having a variety of people. I know this is only the second edition we have a fellowship chat, but that's why I like having a variety of people, because I don't really hear from, like, at least this in-depth conversation from people who are, like, for you, not VIP and relatively new to the game. How you navigate Middle Earth, basically, in the game and how that impacts your experience is interesting. But I will say at least I should probably be wrapping up somewhat soon. So if we can connect back to Before the Shadow, I know this has been on very long. So I promise we have talked about it throughout this. Is there anything else, any other like highlights of the mini expansion for you as a like relatively newer player? I don't know if you play many alts.
So right now I currently have my Roomkeeper. He's my main. His name is Beverath at the moment. He's level 71 in Isengard. I actually told myself I'm not making an alt and playing it until I get to level 100.
Okay.
Because the thing is, I have 10 alts. Because I have 11 character slots, and my goal is I had enough slots to be able to make every single class.
That makes sense.
So if I do get VIP, then I'll have fast travel on all of them, and that was my goal. I was just gonna get like 1 month of VIP for that. But the thing is, like, I don't play any alts currently. The next one I'll probably play is a Warden, which probably won't have any issues with traveling. I think that I'm definitely going to play through Before the Shadows. Let's put it that way. Once I hit level 100 with my Runekeeper, I'm going to play the Warden through Swanfleet and Cardland. I think it's going to be a good experience, especially with the fact that it's all one zone. I'm just still slightly like, I don't know how well it's going to scale, because yes, it's a massive zone, but you have 32 levels put into that 2 zones, and usually 32 levels is put in maybe to 3 or 4 zones.
Yeah, it'll be, well, they're really large zones. I think it'll just be interesting to see how that flows with that. Now, I'm also curious, sorry if you happen to mention this, I was just messing with things on OBS because I forgot I was not showing chat, and they are indeed very important.
No, it's all right.
So, let's see, what was I going to ask? Oh yeah, so are you going to play through it, though, on your higher level character, on your Runekeeper?
I actually don't know. The thing is, like,
Okay.
I was thinking of doing it for Virtue XP, if there's Virtue XP in that zone.
Yeah, there should be
But
from
I
Deeds.
don't feel like I want to put that time in just for a little bit of virtue XP when I could just be going through the game and looking at the epic quests.
Hmm. That makes
That's
sense.
that's the only bad part about the mini expansion. It's very it's low level focused, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think the best part about the expansion, as we talked about before, is the removal of class points being tied to deeds and quests. But besides that, I mean, yeah, delvings may be cool. I mean, it's kind of like doing Mythic Plus on WoW and doing
Hmm.
like doing temporal rifts in Guild Wars 2, like high level ones.
Yeah, sort of solo version. I don't know, is Guild Wars 2 that thing solo?
You can do it solo depending upon the rift, but you can also do it with a party. I think they were called rifts. It's been a long time since I played Guild Wars. I played that maybe like 4 years ago, back during Path of Fire. I had
Hmm.
gotten every single mount, and then I kind of just like trailed
Oh,
off because it was too much. That's a funny thing. I don't like Guild Wars 2 that much because of the fact that there is no gear scaling when you hit
oh.
max level.
Hmm.
Because the
I
thing is,
don't
when you
I
have you played
don't
Guild Wars
like
2?
Guild Wars 2, but for different reasons. I just don't like the combat at all.
The
And that's,
com
of
yeah,
course, that's a major part of an MMO, so if I don't like that, it's hard for me to actually play it.
the combat via weapon class, I don't think is a bad idea. It's just poorly executed.
Hmm.
The thing is, like, I played a lot of Guild Wars 2. So you know how like, did you know that there's like ascendant weapons?
No,
Like, so
I
you
don't
have
think I
like
ever heard of that.
normal, you have rare, then you have like exotic is like a really good weapon, and that's kind of like your end game weapons. But ascended is above exotic, and then there's a legendary weapon, and the legendary weapons take like months to get.
Oh,
Um, ascended, what they are is ascended weapons have the same stats as legendaries, except legendaries can be transferred across characters while ascendeds can't.
okay.
Um, the ascended suck to grind. Let's put it that way, because they're locked behind like 5 days worth of dailies for a single piece of ascended gear. And
Hmm.
I have a character in Guild Wars 2, a necromancer, and they're fully ascended with full ascended gear, the best gear that you can possibly use. But like, if I go into a new expansion, it's going to be the same gear, and I'm not going to change my gear out because I have the
Hmm.
best gear in the game, and it's not going to scale.
And that's kind of interesting because I see people mention like that they want a system like that for Lotro, but then there's that
It's
question
not
of are you just going to get
fun.
bored of having the same gear and not really ever having to replace it? It seems like it might be a nice thing because it sort of eliminates grind, but almost like we were talking about earlier, the excitement of getting a new weapon, you lose the excitement of getting new gear
Yeah,
and
that's
progressing
true.
your character and their stats up.
I want to ask Bright's chat a quick question. What are your guys' opinion with regards to like Bright said that you guys his hot take is he doesn't like the LI system, but he said that you guys kind of do. What do you think about the fact that if there was like a system put in place that you're not going to level and you have the same gear, but you can just go into another expansion and use the same gear? Would that be a turnoff for you? Because I know personally for me that would be a big turnoff in the game because I feel like one, I don't think having the what's it called? How do I put it? Like having the ability to use the same weapon over and over. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think for one piece of gear that's not bad, but if you did for all gear, that's when it gets boring.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Oh man,
in the
that
meantime, another interesting point that Bella's brought up in my chat is that crafting is not really a big selling point of the game. And I know it's a big part of a lot of MMOs, but there's just not much with crafting nowadays in LOTRO. You can craft some useful pieces of gear, but it's a lot of people I know don't really like it. I'm not a big fan of higher level crafting. So I feel
yeah,
like that's something they could also update.
I
I
noticed that. I do like crafting as the whole concept.
Mhm.
I've grandmastered or I've mastered everything up to like Westfold at the moment, and that's where I'm currently at. So I'm always keeping up and mastering all my crafts.
That's good.
And I'm a jeweler right now. I actually don't use much of the jewelry that I ever craft now. I would use it for a low level account, don't get me wrong, but it's lackluster the way that they've set it up, especially with having
Yeah.
the guilds be the lock for a lot of these
Yeah.
content.
Guilds and reputation. And to me, there are some exciting times ahead, I think, for your crafting, but there are also some not too exciting. But hopefully you
Yeah,
continue to enjoy it.
I know doing rep grind in Isengard isn't too bad right now, and I can get some like jeweling stuff from there. My only
Hmm.
thing is like I don't really I do like the fact that you can rep grind and get the craft and like you can create the stuff, but for the weird thing was in Mirkwood you had to get the rep, and then when you crafted it, the person actually had the rep to use that weapon.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, if I remember correctly,
Hmm.
you had to be a certain rep to buy the thing, and then I think you had to be. Oh no, it wasn't the fact that it wasn't they had to have the rep to use the weapon. It's the fact that like you had to have the rep to learn the thing. So if I'm on like my Runekeeper and
Oh, yeah.
I'm like
Couldn't send
Kindred
it to
for,
alts.
yeah, you can't send them to alts, which is the bad part.
Hmm.
Like I would be fine if that was the case, where I'd be able to buy them on my main account because I ground the
Yeah.
Kindred rep, and then my alts could learn the recipes that I could grab off my Kindred. But no,
Yeah, another thing we were talking about earlier is like Standing Stone Games taking feedback from the community. And that is actually one point where I know in recent updates they have mentioned that specific topic. And in Gundabad, the latest level cap expansion, not necessarily latest quest packs, they made the reputation gated recipes. You can barter for them, but then there's no restriction on the actual recipes themselves. So you can send them to alts, you can trade them between other players even.
oh, is that where
So
you see people selling like Westfold, like the Gundabad recipes, and they're super expensive?
the super expensive ones, no. The super expensive ones might be with the legendary items and traceries. I haven't
Yeah, I think
dealt
that's the
too much
ones.
with that because one of the things about the LI system is it's kind of tiring, and after all the other things in the game that I say deal with, so some of these are actually fun, but it just doesn't leave me much energy to deal with the LI system.
Hmm.
So I haven't honestly paid much attention to the crafted traceries, but those are probably the expensive ones. But again, at least they're
Yeah,
tradable,
that
and
is
that means you
true.
can send them to alts.
Oh, somebody in Bright's chat, BC said that the super expensive ones are the Herald reads as they have like a 1% drop rate to get another one after the one it gives you.
Yeah,
So I guess because of the fact like you get one from the quest and then it's hard to get another one if you ever get rid of it.
yeah. And I think they are single use, so once you use it, it's gone. I
Well,
hate those
you can
recipes.
spend LOTRO points to unslot a tracery.
Yeah, but the recipe is single use.
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those. I
Oh
hate
yeah,
those
because I
recipes.
I know that, yeah, that's the bad part that I also hate about the crafting is certain
Mhm.
ones of these recipes are one use recipes where I'm crafting like
It's like,
for example I'm crafting a ring, and the ring is a single use, and I have to have like 10 of those if I want to get a chance to crit the crafting recipe. Thanks for the follow,
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, it's crazy because you would think that if your character learns the recipe once, why would they not know it in the future? And like, where would it go?
It almost be
It
like
doesn't make.
do you play D&D?
Yes.
It's like almost having slotted spells,
Oh, yep.
if you think of it like that. That, or if it's like what is it? Is it that wizard in D&D? Anything can be your spell book, but if the spell book gets destroyed, you can't cast anything.
Sounds like wizard because I actually play a sorcerer and I just know my spells, which is nice.
Yeah, the wizards can write anything inside their spell book, and the funny thing is, you can craft your spell book on anything. So you can actually tattoo it on yourself, which is I know some people do in D&D. But I guess it could be similar to that, where like the scroll is kind of like a one use thing, where it's like it's burned the moment they use it. You got your dice.
Yeah.
Mine are over in the corner. Oh, that'd be funny. That would be fun to do. I would do it. I would do a D&D stream with you and
Virtual.
Bright. That'd be
Hmm.
fun.
I feel like we should play DDO during that, but I'm honestly not the biggest fan of DDO.
I haven't played it. I was talking in Bright's chat the other day, and I mistakenly said DDO has a lot of bots, and that's the issue. I was wrong in saying that. It was actually Neverwinter. I played a
Oh.
lot of Neverwinter, and oh my god, the amount of bots that you get in an endgame is ridiculous. People just run. They have bots scripted to run the daily dungeons. It's bad.
So, very random note, I've been sitting here this entire time. We've been streaming in-game this is 2 hours, 45 minutes, basically. I've been in-game in the same spot, and just now, a wolf decided to attack me. A random
Did you die?
wolf. I caught it, but it's so... What? Like, I'm in the middle of a camp, like a friendly camp, and I don't know where that wolf
somehow
came
wandered
from.
in there.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, Wheel of Time. Neverwinter is such a missed opportunity. It's such a great game. I think the concept for D&D with the fact that it's kind of action combat is a great thing. But as I said, the company kind of let it go, and the fact that there's so many bots is a big issue with Neverwinter. But I actually that's an interesting thing I want to ask you about. I've been playing through Lord of the Rings Online. As I said, I'm 71 at the moment. I have not encountered a single bot. Is there a botting problem in Lord of the Rings Online in the higher levels? With
Not
regards to
that
like
I am
farming, because I
aware
haven't
of.
seen any farmers.
Oh, that's actually a good point. It's kind of weird. I've never even really thought about bots in Lotro. I think the one thing they have is, especially with it being a free-to-play game, multi-boxers, but I honestly don't run into too many of those. I wonder if it's one of those just like community things. Some people do, but most people don't.
Yeah, because that's a thing that I was wondering. Because, oh yeah, they got rid of the Foundry. Yeah, I'm asking. People in Bryce chat are saying that there's no bots right now, but somebody said that there used to be bots
There's-
of like loads of Chinese bots farming years ago.
Oh,
Oh, and
there's
they said it's also not an efficient type of MMO, and it is niche. I guess because of the
there's
niche nature, it would be difficult, and there wouldn't be
Yeah.
any desire. Like, why would you buy at that point?
Yeah, selling Lotro Gold, as far as I know, is a thing. Please do not buy Lotro Gold.
That's
But
a thing.
yeah, but it's not a big thing.
Yeah, I could definitely see why.
I'd
Like-
be curious if it's more from stolen accounts than bots farming gold. But that is a point. I do see, this is where we see the evidence of this. It's not as bad as it used to be, but gold spam and world chat.
Yeah,
that type
I
of
saw
spam,
those.
and even you get tells from players. I know there was one point where a lot of Lotro Discord servers were getting hit by these bots as well. So that is a bit of a problem, but it's overall not too much with the game, which is nice. It's just the gold spammers.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, and the thing is, every single game, like, I guess, for example, if we're playing WoW, I know there's some bots in WoW that farm because you can actually get, like, those time tokens for WoW and you can trade them, so they sell those. And the funny thing is, RuneScape Gold was the first cryptocurrency. So RuneScape Gold was the original cryptocurrency before, like, Bitcoin, before, like, Doge, before, like, Ethereum, all that sort of stuff. And I remember back in the day, like, the people sold the gold, and people still do it. I mean, there's a big it's a meme, but it's also an issue that's going on in Venezuela. You can make more money selling RuneScape Gold than actually working a normal job.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before, which is crazy.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I guess the main reason there isn't any bots is because it's just like there's no desire to sell Lord of the Rings Online Gold. And that's a good thing, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah,
I think
it's a
that's
good
also
thing.
would be an issue if the game becomes more popular, which means more people want the gold, and then there would be more bots influxing.
Yeah,
Which then take
People
up
in-
server space, and the server space gets laggy.
People in chat are talking about, like, this is something I've also thought of, is I have basically nothing to spend my gold on.
Yeah,
So
I
there's-
noticed that too.
No real motivation for me to even make gold, which is really weird because I am in World of Warcraft. From that, that's one of my favorite activities in the game is actually making gold.
Gold making. Same
Yeah, I
here.
had in classic, I got up to like 4,000 gold at one point. pretty early
That's a
in the
lot.
days, and I didn't know what to do with it at one point. And that's actually one of the reasons I stopped playing Classic WoW, is all I played for was just to have that number go up. But setting that aside, yeah, there's nothing like that in Lotro,
There's no
which is weird.
gold sync is the thing.
Yeah,
Like in WoW, the thing is like making gold is not like, so if you're playing like base WoW and not classic. I remember
Yeah.
when I was playing in Legion, I would go every single day, go to my Draenor camp, and then I would make sure that I got all the bags because there was like because I was a tailor and I was doing like I think it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
special weave, and those bags were expensive. They were like 1K
Yeah.
gold each.
Was it Silkweave? Was that the name of
I
the
thought-
one in Legion?
No, I think I was going to say Netherweave, but that's from Burning
Yeah,
Crusade.
that's Burning Crusade.
It's like Dreamweave or something like that.
Oh.
Those bags were super
Yeah.
expensive, and I remember like grinding those every single day. I would go in and make sure I got my dailies for that, and I would make gold. And the main reason I made gold and ground so hard at the time was because I didn't have a job because I was a kid, and I would pay for my monthly subscription by making gold because
Yeah.
they added that thing where you could spend
WoW
gold
token.
for the WoW
Yeah.
tokens.
I did that. Back in Legion, I did the exact same thing. I also, like in WoW, other than the WoW token, you have other gold sinks that Lotro doesn't really have, like mounts. I would buy those.
Well, this kind
And,
of
Other
not really.
things, even to an extent, gear. I'm trying to remember all I spent my gold on, but I sure did spend it.
Yeah, Wheel Time is saying he hated making gold and he just likes doing his dailies and quests. Like the thing is, like,
Yeah.
like I feel like maybe if you don't use gold on anything, the most that you'll do is go to the auction house and buy some crafting mats. But once you max out
Yeah,
your
that's
crafting, you're not
true.
going to spend gold anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
There's-
almost like it would be better if they add the option to maybe do a gold sync with VIP. I don't know.
Yeah.
Similar to WoW, where maybe for like 2,500 gold or something like that, you get a month of
That's
VIP.
like your month. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd be curious to see how well it works in Lotro, just because, like, so the trade-off with that is people can buy gold in WoW. Would people buy gold in Lotro to make that viable for them?
So here's the thing. I think that's an issue. It's the same thing in RuneScape. They have the ability where you can spend gold to get like membership. You spend GP to get membership. WoW has the same thing. At that point, you're kind of like introducing an issue with regards to. Yes, Wheel was saying he doesn't want Lotro to take too many lessons from WoW. But the thing is, like, if you introduce that system, that gives people the incentive to farm gold and sell it. And then the issue at that point is if people are buying it, then Standing Stone isn't making money off of membership because they're
Mhm.
buying from that site and then they're cashing in gold. So in the end, I guess you're trying to figure out, like, are the people who were going to buy VIP still going to buy VIP from them, or are they just going to buy gold from an offhand website to
Yeah.
pay for membership? I feel like the people who pay for VIP because they see the good benefits coming from it, and also because they support the creators.
Mm-hmm.
But also, you're not going to get a deal like buying a year worth of VIP
Yeah.
because the year is like $100. But if a person was to spend gold to try to buy a month, they may have to spend $120 for the 12 months. I mean, you have that issue also.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I did want to get to before I forget, there was some comment here about, yes, Standing Stone Games actually said they've been trying to think of ways to have gold sinks. One of them was supposed to be at one point the legendary item system. I know a lot of people were a bit hesitant on liking that, and so far it's not really much of a considerable gold sink. Also, the delving system, actually, you can buy higher tier gems for the delving system,
Yeah,
so you
it's
can
a gold
immediately
sink.
jump into like tier 10. But the thing is, once you get one of those, you don't really need to ever buy it again. At least based on my beta experience, that will be the case. So it's not really something you'll spend a lot of gold on. I don't necessarily think that should be something you spend a lot of gold on either, but there's that initial buy-in if you want to. So yeah, I wonder in the future if they'll be actually trying to add more gold sinks like that though.
Yeah, I think they could. Have a great night, guys. Some people are signing off, but I think
Yeah.
it would be an interesting way if they would be able to add a better gold sync. Because the thing is, the economy's screwed up right now in Lotro. If you look at it, like look at the
Yeah.
auction house and copper. Even like a piece of copper is 2 gold, and it's like, why the heck is this low level mat so expensive? I
the
mean,
way
it's also good though because it gives low level players the ability to make gold early on in the game that can carry them through the repairs and stuff. But
yeah.
even then, if everything's so inflated, it kind of screws up the gaming. Like what's the purpose of doing gold then?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a number.
Yeah. It's mainly with crafting, really. That's like every time I try to think of, well, I spend gold on this, but it's always crafting. I don't know the last time I spent gold on something that's not crafting.
You haven't spent gold on a pet or like a cosmetic?
No. A lot of that
I know
stuff either.
they sell
get-
pets on the auction house, and they're expensive. Though.
I don't really pay much attention to those. Maybe I should.
They're like
Is it-
usually 300 to like 4,000 gold.
The thing is,
Some
a
are
lot
like
of
the
the
harder
pets
ones.
that I want, I just get in game or
I
get through.
They sell some
activities.
time gated ones though. That's
But
the
yeah,
issue.
that's one that I think be interesting is the time gated ones. Speaking of
It adds
time,
a
by
couple-
the way, I don't mean to cut off this conversation quick, but
No, it's all good.
probably should get about wrapping up with things today. I do appreciate everybody chat. Brightlife, who was here, but he had to go early, and Rescue Fat, Tristan, thank you for
it's all good.
joining the show today. But for some closing thoughts, do you have anything about Before the Shadow that you're really looking forward to that we maybe haven't talked about? I know we talked about Clash trait points. Could reiterate that because it's very exciting.
I mean, as I said, I think class 3 points is the most important thing, but I also think the ability to be able to. So one of my big things is the fact that when I'm playing through low level content now, especially because I'm running through Isengard and stuff like that. When I was going through Bree's kind of populated because there's a lot of people going through there because it's kind of a hub city. When you're going through like Lone Lands, or you're going through Forachel, or you're going through Trollshaws, I never see a single player. Like, it's very rare that I see anybody on Arkenstone going through the same zone that I am. So I think a nice change is the fact that they unify a leveling experience that everybody can do, which means you'll have a lot of more people that you see in like the open world within those zones.
I honestly haven't thought about that. So like when I go on launch day, I intend to, assuming I shouldn't have anything preventing me from doing that next Tuesday. I should see a lot of people questing, which I'm honestly not used to in Lotro, so that is definitely something to look forward to. Yeah, I think we've hit a lot of the big highlights of the expansion. A lot of things to look forward to, and eventually the dungeon. We'll be excited to see that whenever it comes.
And then I had one last question.
Yeah, that's fine.
And this is with regards to post Before the Shadow. What do you think will be the lasting impact of it?
The lasting impact of it?
Yeah, do you think it's mostly just going to... Do you think this leveling zone will be the standard now for like all of Lotro? Or do you think that's going to be the lasting impact, or do you think it's the class deeds and traits that's going to be the lasting impact?
I think the Clash trait point changes will have a bigger lasting impact, but I'm curious about the delving system. First of all, I think Clash trait points, I think that will have the biggest lasting impact, at least for me. But the other one that I'd be curious about is the delving system. It really depends on if Standing Stone Games actually continues with this system, because if you've been a long-time Lotro player, you will know that Standing Stone Games has, or at least the developers, even sometimes Turbine, has developed new systems to the game, added them, and then just kind of let them go off and let them hang. So we have all these sort of decrepit, I think that's the right word, systems in the game that aren't really developed, but they're still in the game for certain level periods or whatever. Even certain things like epic battles, they don't have new epic battles. The scaling's all sorts of messed up, especially at higher levels. But hey, you still needed to run them for the trait points, but that's no longer the case. They've even made alternatives actually to the epic battles. So they've done some things to help get you around these older, no longer being developed systems. So I really hope that they actually continue to keep up with delvings in the future, as especially a solo/duo option for getting some gear when you either can't get a larger group or just for some reason can't organize that due to time constraints. I know like people have things that they have to do, they have obligations. So if you can play for like 30 minutes and knock out a couple tier 10 delvings and help you get gear, I think that's a great thing, and I really hope they continue with it, basically.
Yeah, I also think that with the introduction of this, it's going to kill a lot of content, though. Like, there's no reason to do epic battles now.
Yeah.
Except for maybe getting your jewelry if you're, like, lower level, if you're, like, really behind on jewelry. That's the only reason you would run an epic battle is to get a little bit more jewelry. But there's, like... I really hope that post, like, Before the Shadow, when they go on to their next expansion, I hope they add an epic battle, because the thing is, like, the system's dead at the moment. It's, like, not worth... It's not necessary once you get rid of the fact that you had to do it for class points.
And that's, I think, a good point with the skirmish in Before the Shadow. They hadn't added a new skirmish since, I think, Rise of Isengard with Stormo Methydras. And
Yeah,
this is the first skirmish in that many years. They are not updating the skirmish system as a whole, though, but this particular skirmish at least has LI rewards. I don't know that that helps level 20 to 50-ish players, but it has some relevant modern rewards. So potentially they could do an epic battle like that that's more up to date with whatever level cap and leveling characters at that point. Question is, would people like an epic battle?
I personally would.
I know some people would. I'm not always the biggest fan of them, but they can be fun under the right circumstances.
If you have a good team, they're fun.
Yeah, that's the big dependent thing, which is kind of similar with raids. I mean, if you try to go in there solo, probably won't have too much fun. So if you think of it that way, like if they restricted it maybe to 6-man and 12-man, so you couldn't even do it solo, because I just find epic battles so boring. Even 2 or 3-man can be boring. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah, somebody was saying, Daedalus was saying the new skirm drops the new best in slot cloak as well. And it says then you use the Delvin system to upgrade it.
Okay, so I did not get to that point in the skirmish. I ran my only thing with the skirmish is I ran solo tier 1 level cap. So my like rewards and what I know about them are based on that. So yeah, I was kind of wondering the motivation to run the skirmish beyond what I saw. That'll be interesting to see.
So it's to get items that you can upgrade through delvings. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Necklace and cloak are the two that I'm familiar with. I'm guessing both of those are in the skirmish, or is it just the cloak? I don't know. Eventually we'll find out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm honestly not the biggest beta person. So I don't do any questing content in the betas. I usually just explore the landscape. I do take a little bit of a peek at systems, but that can always change by release. So I definitely don't like making guides or doing very deep dives in beta. So
the necklace is the 6-man.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be the 6-man. I know Orion did a recent Q&A stream with Cordovan. For people that don't know, 2 people at Standing Stone Games, Orion's relatively returning developer. I think he was here in some of the older days, but returning. Yeah. He's doing system stuff, and then Cordovan's the community manager.
Orion did creep stuff originally. He did PvMP.
Yep, and I think he did some with the Warden and Minstrel and maybe another class as well.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, he's been really great, I think, about communication in general. So that's been great. At the very least, I think it's an important thing in an MMO.
I would say so. I think the developers are doing a great job as of now.
Yeah.
The only thing they could just, as I said, they just need to, I think, hone in on certain mechanics more and try to modernize the game more. Not
that
like
would be
take away
great.
the aesthetic. That's the issue. Like you don't want to take away the aesthetic and change the game so the old players don't like it, but you want to be able to
Yeah.
make it a little bit more easier for people to get into.
Yeah, I think it should be recognizable, but then more appealing, more modern looking for, yeah, those new players, or to even get people interested.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think that is pretty much it. Other things I would want to talk about is me looking forward to dinner, and I know I could always sit down, but not standing anymore.
Oh, are you standing?
Yeah, I've been standing this whole time. It's okay,
man,
but 3
it's 3
hours
hours.
is a little bit. It starts to get a little bit on my feet,
Oh,
but it's okay.
Is it because you have a tall desk, or is it like?
I have it's a motorized leg, so I can sit stand. I just like to stand when I stream and make videos, and I'm just.
Yeah.
This sounds so weird, but too lazy to sit in the middle of it.
Well, let's give your legs a rest, and I guess call
Yeah.
it for a night.
Again, thank you for joining. Y'all can find links to Rescue Fat. And see, that's the problem after streaming so long. I just can't talk anymore.
Yeah, your throat gets dry. I literally drank 2
Yeah.
of these during the stream.
Oh, wow. I drank however much this holds of water, 16-ish ounces, but I ran
I
out.
drank 32 then.
So yeah, this was fun. Thank you for being here. I'll let you know future episodes. Guys, again, this is kind of a random type chat show, so it's not like regular schedule. It has been Tuesdays in the past because that works for Brightlife, and he seems to enjoy these a lot. He is perhaps a regular. We've only had 2 events of this, but he's been here 100% of them.
Hey, 100% is better than 0%.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's time for me to wrap things up. And as always, it's very awkward actually ending the stream. So, on that note, I hope you all enjoyed this, and let me know any feedback you have about the show, the setup, the cameras. I know a lot of that was work in progress and with 3 people here, but I'm going to try to have chat showing a little bit more prominently and have them showing earlier on, and hopefully get to more chat comments as well. But it's honestly just hard when we have especially 3 of us talking here to incorporate a lot of things from chat, but still appreciate and read the comments. We can even type in there. So
Yeah.
that is always
It's
a
the same
possibility.
I have to adjust my setup for chat next time.
Yeah.
It was a bit hectic to say the least because I was trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to set up the stream as we were getting ready.
At least
But-
there is an element of fun of experimenting while live, maybe.
Yeah, that's true, but it's also stressful.
Yeah.
The thing is, I can't tell until my VOD gets posted if my mic's good enough.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's doing well.
It sounds fine from my end, at least. I know my microphone, I don't have any of my filters, and it sounded kind of rough without them, but hopefully it's not too bad for you all.
It sounds fine through Discord for me. The funny thing is, right now, the way that I'm using it, so I'm streaming on OBS to Bright's chat and mine, and yes, they're hearing me through my filter, but you're hearing me through Discord on my normal mic, and I think my normal mic sounds like garbage.
Sounds fine to me. I guess I don't have anything to compare it to, but yeah, those are, for anybody watching, just some considerations with this.
Yep.
It's
Well-
not as perfect as being in the same room, basically, but that's a little bit tough.
Yeah, especially with distance.
Yeah.
Hey,
But-
who knows? Maybe one day Standing Stone will invite us all to the headquarters and we could all do
Oh,
a
that'd be
chat.
fun. In Needleham, Massachusetts, I believe, near Boston.
Yeah, it's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that would
But
be
yeah.
fun.
As far as the stream goes again, hope you all enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more and checking out both Rescue Fat and Brightlife. And thanks for joining, chatting, and watching, everyone.
Thanks for having me on.